Utah call Bobby?
That might be it.
Where is she?
Start.
All right, good morning and welcome. Today is Thursday, November 3rd, 2022, and I'm welcoming you to a land use meeting of the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County. It is an absolutely beautiful day today in Manatee County, and we're going to start this day the way we always start days here. We're going to start by honoring God and by honoring our great nation. This morning, the invocation will be led by Commissioner Vanessa Baugh, after which we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner George Cruz. So if you're able, at this time, please stand.
Let's bow our heads, please. Heavenly Father, we thank you for such a glorious, beautiful day that we have here in Manatee County today. Father, we ask that you guide us, you protect us, and help us to make educated and good decisions for the citizens of this county. Father, we are blessed to have you beside us always and to help us move forward, to do the things that we need to do to give the citizens of Manatee the best quality of life that they can possibly have. Father, in your Son's name, Jesus, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. We're going to move right along here and go to announcements and changes to today's agenda. Dr. Hopes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are lengthy. The update memo for November the 1st under consent agenda, approval of the clerk's consent agenda, revised agenda attached. Item number 10, adoption of resolution R22-191, corrected documents to reflect correct chairman name on the signature block. Item number 11, adoption of resolution R22-167. A clean copy of the resolution was posted. Item number 13, approval of final plat and associated documents for Grove Point. Revised action requested. Item number 15, approval of final plat and associated documents for Sawgrass Lakes, Phase 1 through 3. Revised action requested. Item number 19, adoption of Budget Amendment Resolution B22-146, revised resolution. Item number 20, adoption of Budget Amendment Resolution B23-011, a revised resolution was attached. Number 37, adoption of Resolution R22-177, approving and authorizing execution of agreement with Florida Department of Transportation for maintenance of system post-project enhancements in District 4. Additional County Attorney Opinion 2022-0545. Item number 40, adoption of Resolution R22-196, revision in the instructions to the board record. Under advertised public hearings, presentation upon request, item number 50, LDCT 22-10, ordinance 22-67, revision to parking calculations, had an updated staff report in ordinance. Item number 51, resolution R22-005 or R22-006, public comments and an ex parte communication is attached, and a revised motion to correct the date on the continued motion. Item number 57, PD MU 21-12, related to McClure. In this, at the request of the applicant, a revised motion to continue to January 19th, 2023 at 9 a.m. was added. Under the consent agenda, add-on item, item number 60 is being removed from today's agenda, and it will be on the November 29th agenda. Item number 61, approval of final plat and associated documents for Legacy Acres was added to the consent agenda. And item number 62, consideration of facilities usage agreement at the future high school site at Rangeland and Post in Lakewood Ranch was added. I believe those are all the amendments to the agenda, Mr. Chair.
Sir, the debris collection site on school board property,
That's item number 62.
and that is on the consent agenda, is that what you said?
Yes, it's on the consent.
Okay. Commissioners, I'm going to pull item number 62 from consent.
You beat me to it.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I did not receive the update memo, so it's really hard for me to understand what has happened.
Can we get an update memo for Commissioner Servia, please?
Yeah.
Commissioners, item 62 having been pulled, are there any other items that commissioners would like to pull from today's consent agenda?
I'm interested in looking at what was mentioned for District 4, but I'm sorry I did not have the paperwork to understand it.
Let's go ahead and do proclamations and awards then, and we'll come back to pulling items from consent after that.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, I'll wait.
Did you want to pull any items from consent, Commissioner Whitmore?
If it's okay, number 9 and number 30.
9, 30.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, what we'll do is we'll come back after presentations and proclamations, and that way Commissioner Servia will have an opportunity to review consent in its entirety after the updated agenda. And then we will take up items that were removed from consent at the very tail end of the meeting today. That will be our plan today. All right, so let's move forward then with presentations, and we will start with October Employee of the Month, which is Billy Koch from the Utilities Department. Do we have anyone here from Utilities? Okay, I thought I saw a lot of you out there.
So
This is
first
DePaul.
off, we're also going to be introducing our new utilities director after this, but most importantly, Billy Koch received Employee of the Month for October of this year, and I've got the new utilities director and then our supervisor and Billy here today this morning, so I'll let.
Good morning. I will be introducing Nick Wagner, who's actually going to go into a little bit more detail about Billy. Nick Wagner is Billy's direct supervisor. He is the utilities superintendent who has been with Manatee County for 21 years. He received a bachelor's from USF in business management, and these two gentlemen are really examples of the quintessential public servants that we should all be proud of. They're two of the members who put in extremely long hours with Hurricane Ian. And we should all be proud of them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wagner, who's going to say a few more words about Billy. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It is my pleasure and privilege to introduce Mr. Billy. I've worked with him since he started in 2016. Just a little background on what kind of person he is. He was in the military and enlisted in 2001, and he served during Operation Iraqi Freedom. He was the first member of his family to be a Marine. He has a long history and family with many people being in the Army and the Navy. So with him being in the Marines, he really stepped it up. He encouraged his nephew to now be the second Marine in his family. The reason I'm going into that is, as a Marine, he was a platoon sergeant over 40 people, and he used that leadership that he gained from his military history to be a leader here in the county. He's, from what I understand, one of the unique things with him as the Employee of the Month, his crew was actually the ones that nominated him to get this award, and normally it's done by either peers or supervisors. So his direct reports came to me, and I assisted them in putting the paperwork together to become Employee of the Month. He's been a supervisor since 2020, and he oversees our deep excavations, our CIP projects, and emergency repairs. Like Mr. Evans stated, he was a vital part of our emergency response during Ian. And without further ado, Mr. Billy Koch.
Thank you. My name is Billy Koch, like you've heard. This is a pretty big honor for me. I'm very grateful for my team and putting me up for it. Pretty big surprise, definitely unexpected, but I'm very blessed to have the team that I have that allow me to do the things that I do, and I lean hard on them, they lean on me, and we get things done for the county. It's been a privilege so far to work with them, so thank you.
One more thing for Billy. So one of the incredible things, I know Charlie and I were there to honor Billy when we surprised him in his office the other day. But one of the most amazing things is during Hurricane Ian, we had an enormous amount of lift stations that had to be repaired, and it was truly a group effort. We couldn't just rely on one team to get all those lift stations up. And Billy really has, he's continued to prove himself to be one of the subject matter experts with getting utilities back online quickly, with training the crews, and with the lift stations, he was an integral part of getting all those lift stations up and on generated power and fixed as quickly as possible. So just a huge help to us, especially for us that were in the EOC and relying on the folks in the field who really did an exceptional job. So thank you, Billy, for all your hard work. I really appreciate it too. So
You should have opened with that part.
I know, sorry. I wanted to save the best for last. So.
Yes, in the middle of a hurricane, he kept everything running. That's kind of the key here. Commissioner Ball, you're on the board, ma'am.
Billy, I just want to say that, it's right. It is true that generally supervisors and so forth recommend people for, Employee of the Month. And you, of course, have something totally opposite, which says a lot about you. So thank you for being here with us at Manatee County. We appreciate you. Keep it up, and anything we can ever do, let us know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I introduced you as Billy Koch. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Koch.
Koch, okay. People do the same to my last name all the time, so I'm sensitive to it. But thank you, Mr. Koch. We receive complaints all the time about things that are fairly insignificant, and lift stations are always in the back of my mind that, thank God they've never gone down, and I haven't started getting complaints about that, because people would be far less cordial than they are about the pothole or the stop sign, not to pick on Public Works, but I'm sure they would be far less cordial about it. And I know that y'all were out there before wind and rain subsided, making sure that things were up and running, whether it was generators or lift stations that were going down, but just keeping the system as a whole up and going. Couldn't be more appreciative for your service to our country, but also your service to our county, sir. Thank you. Yes, he is a Marine, that too. All right, thank you so much. All right, next we have proclamations, and we'll start with Commissioner Servia, who has designated a proclamation designating November as American Indian Heritage Month.
Mr. Chairman,
Manatee
I make a
County.
motion to approve proclamations.
Well, she just walked away, but she can vote from the floor. How's that?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Baugh to approve proclamations. Do we have a second? A second by Commissioner Cruz to approve proclamations. All in favor of approving proclamations, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Whitmore? Commissioner Whitmore, what is your vote on proclamations, ma'am? Okay, proclamations pass by a vote of 4-0. Commissioner Servia.
All right, I'm very sorry. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone here to receive this proclamation? Please join me. Come on down. Yes, thank you. Okay, whereas the history and culture of our great nation have been significantly influenced by American Indians and indigenous peoples, and whereas the contributions of American Indians have enhanced the freedom, prosperity, and greatness of America today, and whereas their customs and traditions are respected and celebrated as part of the rich legacy throughout the United States, and whereas Native American Awareness Week began in 1976, and recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by President George Bush in August 1990, designating this month of November as National American Indian Heritage Month. And whereas in honor of National American Indian Heritage Month, community celebrations as well as numerous cultural, artistic, educational, and historical events have been planned. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that November 2022 shall be known, designated, and set aside as American Indian Heritage Month in Manatee County. It's adopted today with a quorum. It's signed by our chairman and our clerk of the court. And if you have a few words, we would welcome you to please tell us about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Hobbs, and the rest of the board. I represent the American Daughters of the Revolution chapter named Manatee. We are one of 2 chapters in Manatee County. This is a national movement to honor the American Indian and their heritage. They have given us a lot of the innovations that we use today, and we are honoring them. I write a short column monthly in our newsletter, and I'm very honored to be here today representing them to receive this proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good job. Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. All right, next is sort of a fan favorite every year. Commissioner Cruz will be coming down to read the proclamation designating November 7 through 19 as Farm City Week in Manatee County. So whoever is here to accept Farm City Week proclamation, if you please come down and stand behind Commissioner Cruz.
I was going to guess you were part of this. I'm good. How are you?
It's like old times. Look at this.
Always a fun crowd. Commissioner Cruz.
Good? All right. Whereas the first Farm City Week celebrations were established by Kiwanis International, and whereas Manatee County Farm City Week was first sponsored by the Bradenton Kiwanis Club in 1955, and whereas the 2022 Farm City Week honors the Bradenton Kiwanis Club in celebration of their 100th anniversary with appreciation of the club's sponsorship and support of agriculture. And whereas the Bradenton Kiwanis Club began recognizing the Agriculturist of the Year in 1967 to recognize individual contributions and to bring attention to the diversity of the agriculture industry. And whereas the Bradenton Kiwanis Club has been instrumental in the establishment of the 4-H Education Center, the Manatee County Agricultural Museum, the Master Gardener's Horticulture Learning Center, and other brick and mortar projects. And whereas the Bradenton Kiwanis Club has sponsored leadership and citizenship programs involving 4-H, Future Farmers of America, and Farm Bureau programs targeting Manatee County youths. And whereas the purpose of Farm City Week is to educate the community about the diversity of agriculture production in Manatee. And whereas the Manatee County Farm City Week invites the community to join in celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Bradenton Kiwanis Club and its many contributions to making Manatee County one of the best communities to live, work, and play. And whereas Farm City Week and the agriculture community are thankful for the 100 years of service and support provided by the Bradenton Kiwanis Club and urges the public to celebrate agriculture in Manatee County while appreciating the contributions the Bradenton Kiwanis Club has made to agriculture education in our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County, Florida, that November 7th through 19th, 2022 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Farm City Week in Manatee County, Florida, adopted with a quorum present and voting this third day of November 2022, signed by our chair and the clerk of the court. So this is always great. I'm a member of the Bradenton Kiwanis, the chair's member, Commissioner Serby is a member. And Kiwanis does some great lunches, but every year there's 2 or 3 of them that everyone always looks forward to, and Farm City Week is at the top of the list. You get the big basket of vegetables on the table. It's always crowded. It's great to come back and reconnect and just remember how important agricultural industries and everyone has been to Manatee County, the history of Manatee County, the future of Manatee County. So, you know, as always, we thank all of you for everything you do for us and for everybody in the country. And it's great to celebrate you every year in Farm City Week. So I've got this proclamation for whoever is going to be accepting it.
Oh, Patty, you go ahead. You're chairman. There you go. All right, thank you, George. Appreciate it. Good morning. My name's Ralph Garrison. I'm an agricultural activist, 35-year member of Farm City Week, past president, Manatee County Farm Bureau, current board of director, Farm Bureau and all, and just been around for a while in farming and everything. I'd like to explain to you all a little bit and to the citizens out there and all what Farm City Week is all about. As George mentioned, this is the 67th year we've celebrated Farm City Week in Manatee County. Farm City Week raises awareness between the urban and rural communities, between city folk and farmers and ranchers. Folks, there's no unity in a community that does not know its past heritage. In Manatee County, the heritage is agriculture. Our forefathers settled on the banks of the Manatee River, grew food and crops nearby, put the crops on boats to send them up the river into the Gulf north to Cedar Key. There they caught the train and went to the northeast. Today, in Manatee County, we continue to grow safe, affordable, and abundant foods. Agriculture, though, is more than a tradition. It firmly cements Manatee County's economic base. It is vital to our well-being, our unique climate, the soils that we have, the water that we have provided generations of Manatee County citizens with food, with employment, and a love of the land. Farm City Week's goal is to educate our citizens of the importance of agriculture as a dynamic part of its bright future. This Farm City Week, as we gather with family and friends to count our blessings, let us give thanks to the bounty that we enjoy, not just with this celebration, but every day. The safe, plentiful food that is available to us, the products used from agriculture that many of us do not recognize, clothing, housing, medicines, fuel, and other products we use on a daily basis did not appear just in a store. It reminds me of a third grade teacher asking her students, where does milk come from? Little Johnny raised his hands. Publix, he said. We're a little different than that. They got here thanks to a tremendous partnership of city folk and farmers and ranchers, the processors, the brokers, the truckers, the shippers, the advertisers, the wholesalers, and the retailers. In a few weeks, as we celebrate Farm City Week, let us remember these vital Farm City partnerships that have done so much to improve the quality of our lives. Rural and urban communities working together have made the most of our rich agricultural resources and have made significant contributions to our health and well-being and to the strength of Manatee County's economy. I believe we're probably the second largest economic engine the county has. Every once in a while we take over as the first economic engine. When there's an oil spill, when there's a pandemic, when something happens that the tourism isn't as quite as robust as it is, the county agriculture will take over as the #1 economic provider to the community. Now, I want to go over a few activities. Were you going to do this, Patty, for the week? Okay, Patty's got the activities. Okay, good. It's been a difficult year for farmers. I'll talk from a gut and heart standpoint and everything, as it has for a lot of people. It's been a difficult year for Manatee County farmers and ranchers. Hurricane Ian was, of course, just the most recent problem we have. Vegetable crops are down. They've been blown. The ones that had fruit on them have been blistered, and they're unharvestable for the market. Sheds, packing houses ripped apart. I own a wholesale nursery. I lost 9 acres of shade houses during the storm. Cattle drowning, a lot of deaths in cattle. Who would have guessed that the river, Maca River, would have come up, Peace River, come up so big too with it. But through all of this, farmers always find a way to work through it. We always found a way to work through adversities. Let me go back a few years and everything like that. In 1992, we had an outbreak of sweet potato whitefly. This is a pest that came across all aspects of ornamentals and fruits and vegetables, and it took us 2 years to find some way to eradicate it. But we fought through that. Who has an idea of what happened 25 years ago? Were many of y'all around here 25 years ago? Well, let me tell you, some of us have been. And 25 years ago, we were stuck in the middle of a water crisis. These people wanted to blame the farmers on wasting all the water, using all the water. My goodness gracious. If there's one thing about a farmer is that he's not a waste of any natural resources. He is a conservationist and all. He needs the water to produce his crops. But yet they were saying that the farmer was using all this water, depleting the water supply in the ground. They found out that to be false, that more water is wasted flushing a toilet than what farmers use. We recycle the water out in the fields. Red tide is not caused by farmers, speaking about water. That is a scientific fact, where the University of Florida and Moat Marine will both testify to that with it. We've had recessions where we've been in trouble in the farming industry. We've had other hurricanes beside this recent one that we fought through. We've had the pandemic where crops that were supposed to go to restaurants and food storage and all had to be plowed under. There was no market during that time. We've had market loss where we've been uprooted in tomato industry by some unfair government regulation that allows Mexico to do whatever they want to with the tomato market and set their own price and flood the market that we have here in the United States with it. But farmers seem resilient. That's why farmers only compose, there isn't too many of us, get this, they only compose 2% of the population. 2% feeds 98% of the population in the United States. So if we are unable, and this is something that you're going to hear me quote here now, if we are unable to produce the food needed in this country in one of these years, say more regulations, more laws, less farmers, if we're able to not be able to produce the food and this country is needed, this country will be destroyed. The food is our number one backbone. That, my friends, is why we have Farm City Week, to do some education on this and to let people know. I certainly appreciate the commissioners. I think Patty's going to go over this also. And the coffee mugs? Okay. Yeah, the coffee mugs are put up there because we're in kind of desperate shape right now. There's a radish and the little seedlings is what we're having to put out in the ground because the hurricane destroyed all the others. Is it radish and what? Who knows? Just radishes. Radishes. Go back to Gone with the Wind. Scarlet ate radishes. But the theme this year is saluting Farm City Week. And I want you to read this and all like that. As George said that it's a big part of supporting Farm City Week is the Braden Kiwanis. And we certainly appreciate them. Every one of you commissioners will be invited on behalf of Farm City Week to the Kiwanis meeting coming up in a couple of Tuesdays. And I hope you do attend because it's a really good meeting. It talks in here about the preserving natural resources. That was a theme last year that we have in Manatee County, where vast acreage, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of acres around the state, are being maintained in their natural state for people to always have and to always look at. And it goes through different commodities and tells you the value of each commodity with it. So let me leave you, like I've done before. Good morning, Commissioner Whitmore. Are you still out there with me? You have these quotes memorized yet?
Yes, I do. Go for it.
Unstable is the future of a country which has lost its taste for agriculture. That's kind of what I said before. This country will be destroyed. That came from a fella years and years ago named Benjamin Franklin. And then another quote from a fella who knows words. He wrote a book about words. He doesn't mince his words. He said, "Let us never forget that the cultivation of the land is a most important labor for mankind." if there is one lesson which is unmistakable, it is that our national strength lies very near the soil. And that was by Daniel Webster. So once again, Commissioners, I appreciate you receiving this. I want to point out we have an awful lot of people. You know, it's our 2% is out here with us today with it. And we still appreciate the support we get all year round from you folks. I think you realize the importance of agriculture and some of the youth programs. I know when Scott was with the school board, we used to talk about the importance of FFA and the 4-H groups and how important the extension service is. We couldn't farm without the extension service. They're our right-hand person for research and for technical data and just general help that's there with us. Extension office, FFA, and 4-H are very, very important to those of us who are in agriculture with it. So thank you. Patty Keene is the chairman this year, and I'm going to let her say some words.
Thank you, Ralph. Good morning, Commissioners, County Administrator Dr. Hopes, and County Attorney Mr. Clegg. I don't know where he went. I saw him earlier, I thought. I am the 2022 Manatee County Farm City Week Chair. As an 8th-generation Manatee County native that has grown up with an agriculture background and business owner, I am very proud to be part of this organization and keeping agriculture to the forefront in Manatee County. We are pleased to salute the Bradenton Kiwanis for all of their support and to celebrate their 100-year anniversary this year. I'm going to skip over a little bit because I had some of the same stuff Ralph did. On Monday, November 7th, we will have our Soil and Water Conservation District speech contest. On Wednesday, November 9th, will be our historical luncheon at 12 p.m. at the Kendrick Auditorium. If you have not done so, please RSVP. You should have all gotten an invitation from the Historical Commission or the Friends of Ag Museum. It's sponsored by Mosaic this year. Judge Gilbert Smith will be one of our guest speakers. And our inductee for this year is Mr. Stephen Chen. Mr. Chen was Manatee County's first Chinese farmer north of the river. We will also award our middle school and high school essay contest winners there and recognize our speech contest winners from the Monday night contest. On November 10th, we will be doing our Farm City Week tour. This year, we will be doing a conservation and seafood production presentation down at the Palmetto Boat Ramp area. We'll go to Ellington Nursery. We'll have lunch at Duet Preserve, go to Fiorelli Winery, and then end at Big Red Cattle. On Saturday, November 12th, we'll have some 4-H and FFA students down at the Bradenton Farmers Market. On the 15th, as Ralph said, we will have our Bradenton Kiwanis Luncheon, and we will induct our 2022 Outstanding Agriculturist of the Year, which of course is kept secret every year. And Mr. Judge Gilbert Smith will also be our guest speaker there. He definitely has the history of Kiwanis for us. On November 17th will be our Ag Ventures presented by the 4-H Foundation at the Manatee County Fairgrounds. We have just over 900 third graders throughout Manatee County that will come to the fairgrounds to learn about different aspects of agriculture, such as citrus, forestry, dairy, bees, water conservation, and more. Of course, that event, we keep that closed to the public except our volunteers. And then on Saturday, we will wrap up Farm City Week with the Beef Workshop and Prospect Show. The exhibitors will learn at the Beef Workshop about nutrition this year. That's their theme this year. And then they will exhibit their animals in the Prospect Show. Let's see. As you see, Farm City Week's really not a week anymore. I think we're up to 12 days now. Sometimes we spread it out over 2 weeks. But I want to thank a lot of our supporters. Our committee is made up of a lot of the Manatee County Extension agents, various individuals in different organizations in Manatee County, educators, past and present, and just individual volunteers that help out. A lot of our supporters are Bradenton Kiwanis, Bradenton Farmers Market, Manatee County Soil and Water Conservation District, the Manatee County 4-H Foundation, Manatee County Parks and Rec helps us with our lunch every year, Friends of Manatee County Agriculture Museum and the Ag Museum staff, the Manatee County Fair, the Manatee County Farm Bureau, the Manatee County Extension Services, Mosaic, Everglades Farm Equipment, the Palmetto Historical Commission and their staff, and our local 4-H clubs and FFA chapters. And of course, many farmers and ranchers and growers that help us with our information. So I just want to thank you all. Enjoy your radishes. And we'll see next year how they're doing. Maybe we should do a contest and see who still has theirs alive next year. How many still have their tomato plant from a few years ago still alive? Anyone? Well, thank you very much. Did anyone else want to say anything? Is everybody good?
Can I get a minute?
Yes, you sure can. Yours is shorter than Ralph?
Who is not shorter than Ralph?
Never short.
All right.
Neil
thank you.
has a brief 10-minute speech to give us.
Yes. Thank you, County Commissioners and County Administrator Hopes. We're very honored to be recognized this year. Bradenton Kiwanis is proud to have served this community and laid down a foundation for service and leadership for the past 100 years, and are looking forward to bigger and better things for the next 100 years for our community. Agriculture has always been and always will be a focus of Bradenton Kiwanis. Bradenton Kiwanis is made up of great members, including the leaders in our community that help us focus on the future, which is our kids. Please make sure you join us these next 2 Tuesdays as we celebrate our veterans on November 8th, and of course, the Farm City Luncheon on November 15th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil.
I want to add one more thing if I can, Commissioners, and I'll talk to the public out here too. This Thanksgiving, as we gather around with families and friends and plentiful amount of food and drink and all like that, remember this saying: never ever speak poorly about the farmer if your mouth's full of food. We have a tough time with it, and we appreciate your support. Carol, we appreciate you and Misty over the years with your all support of agriculture too and everything. You've been staunch friends of ours and all, and we thank you that, and to all the commission and everything like that. Remember, it's only 2% of us, so not too much the word gets out from those two. And now we're so far out east, no one ever comes visits us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we have commissioners who would like to speak. The order of the board is Servia, Baugh, and Whitmore.
Yes, just a couple of quick comments. Thank you all very much for being here. It is an exciting week every year to talk about Farm City and honor our agriculture and what's happening in the industry. Ralph, thank you for being here. Neil, Patty, Kiwanis, thanks for all that you do. You know, it's important every year to acknowledge the importance of having agriculture in Manatee County. And, you know, when we talk about up here, we have a lot of development that we see and approve, and maintaining that urban services boundary has a lot of importance and reasons for doing it, but one of the reasons is to preserve agriculture as we go forward. So thank you all for what you do. I really appreciate each and every one of you. And this Thanksgiving, we all think about the farmers, and turkeys are going to be expensive this year. So, I wanted to say one more thing. I spoke with a farmer recently who lost everything in Ian, and I'm sure that there are a lot of them. And the farmer said to me, well, we just start over. It's happened many times before. So thank you for starting over.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Baugh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, every year that I've been here, I wait for this. I've always enjoyed all of you being here. I see a lot of the same faces. Ralph, it's good to see you as always. Buddy, you know it. The thing about it is, you know, and Misty kind of touched on it, you know, farmers go through, I think, more than any of the rest of us in any other industry. I mean, there's always something that is harming the crops or causing just natural disasters all the time. Some of which we cause ourselves, and some of which we have no control over. But the one thing about the farmer is that you always come back. And that's something I think that all of us can appreciate and learn from. Never give up, always try, always come back. And that means a lot. So you guys teach us a lot. You're always there. And I never talk bad about a farmer when I got food in my mouth. So thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Hopes. Oh, Commissioner Whitmore, I apologize. Commissioner Whitmore, you're next.
Thank you. For 3 years now, I haven't caught COVID. And wouldn't you know, that's the only reason why I'm not here today is because I have COVID. So I apologize. But Ralph, Ralph is a Manatee High graduate. And I think we graduated around the same time. Patty's from a well-known family. I'm glad to see Extension Services is there. I do know a farmer out there that lost $8 million worth of inventory, and insurance is maybe going to reimburse them $1.5 million. So it's been devastating. I just wanted to thank you all. I'm very sorry I couldn't make it. And it was very nice because what you said at the very end is what I.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Whitmore. Dr. Hopes, you're next on the board, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank all of you. I think most of us spent a good bit of time out east during the response and recovery, and we both heard and saw firsthand how broadly the agricultural industry out east was damaged during Ian. I will tell you that Commissioner Satcher and I will be out east tonight at 6:30 at Myakka City Elementary School to engage with the public about the things that are needed out there, not just during and following an emergency, but moving forward to ensure that both the administration and the board is listening to the needs that you have. And I was able to spend a couple of hours with all of our extension folks a couple of weeks ago, and I'll look forward to continuing to spend more time. But we thank you, and we pray for a speedy recovery out east for all of our agricultural partners and families and friends. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I'm a proud Kiwanian, along with Commissioner Cruz and Commissioner Servia. Love Farm City Week every year. It is one of our absolute favorites as Kiwanians. And farmers they're a different breed, right? They're tough people. They're salt of the earth. They're great people. Actually, one of the folks that you brought with you is this year's distinguished citizen for Manatee County, Buddy Keene. Yes, sir. And I learned some things at Kiwanis during Farm City Week. I learned that in Florida, roughly 1/3 of the land is private property, roughly 1/3, residential and commercial, and roughly 1/3 of the land is state-owned property, and roughly 1/3 of the land in the county is agriculture. When the other two grow, residential, commercial, the private and the public lands, when they grow, they really only take land from agriculture. And so you have two that are growing and ultimately one that's shrinking. It's one of the, you mentioned many, challenges that agriculture faces, and that's certainly one of them as well. Greening in the citrus industry has virtually destroyed our citrus industry at this point. You want to become a billionaire, solve greening. And then NAFTA would be another example of how Florida was disproportionately affected by NAFTA because our crops compete directly with crops in Mexico and in South America. Automation, another example, right? Challenges that farming is facing. But anyway, so I have a tremendous amount of respect for the agriculture industry and for all that y'all do out here. And I even though I'm a Westie, I'm good friends with the Dakins and Faulkners. I know a lot of folks out on your side of the county. I have a lot of connections over there. So anyway, very appreciative and I love Farm City Week. You're not on the board yet. Did you want to make a comment before we close it out?
You could be from out east if you wanted to.
I could be from out east if I wanted to be. I spent a lot of weekends out there, but that's classified information. So.
Just make sure they understand it's not with me.
Sure. I'll just add that I appreciate y'all being here and the work that you do. And it's one of those things that when you do the math, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. And when you factor in the risk factors and the unknown, it doesn't make sense. But, I believe God just put something in people's heart. And they when you get that soil, and you care about what happens with the animals and with your crops. And so I just have more than respect, admiration and Cowboys and farmers are my heroes, and so I appreciate you being here, all the hard work that you do, and thanks for letting us be a small part of it this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, and thank you to all of you. Thank you for everything. All right. So one thing we neglected to do today is we had Mr. Koch up here receiving his Employee of the Month award, and we failed to introduce to everyone the new Director of Utilities. He got up there and spoke, but he didn't get a proper introduction to everyone. So let's have Mrs. DePaul introduce him now.
Good morning, Commissioners. Courtney DePaul, Deputy County Administrator. So we confirmed, you all confirmed Evan at the October 6th, the land use meeting, and he moved to Manatee County in record-breaking time, within 4 weeks. And so Evan hails originally from Vermont, but he joins us from New York City, where he served as the Director of Business Enterprise Systems with the Bureau of Wastewater Treatment for the Department of Environmental Protection in New York City. He's a licensed professional engineer in New York, and like me, he's working on reciprocity in Florida, so I'm going to walk him through that process. It's not too bad. And earned his civil engineering degree from the University of Vermont and his master's of civil engineering from Norwich University. So he just relocated to Lakewood Ranch from Jackson Heights, New York, and so I just wanted everyone to give him a warm welcome. Today's officially day 9. And I think he's still drinking from the fire hose a little bit. Lots of exciting stuff happening. But he's just done a phenomenal job so far. So I didn't know if you wanted to say a couple words, Evan.
So I do want to thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Manatee County. This is an incredible opportunity. It's very excited to be here, and I look forward to working with you all and getting some great work done very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We're very glad to have you. I think you'll find many of your neighbors in Lakewood Ranch also fled New York. So it's a common theme. Dr. Hopes.
I just wanted to note that Evan, he did relocate here in record time. He was heavily recruited really across the country, and he chose with his girlfriend to make their home here in Manatee County. He comes to us with just exceptional experience and education, and I can tell you these first 9 days he has not stopped. We'll be soon announcing, I think, the Deputy Director of Solid Waste, correct?
Correct.
And so he's already been engaged in the recruiting, and I think you're going to like the talent. The folks in utilities have all been extremely complimentary of Evan's performance to date, and so we look forward to many years of building upon his experience and education and expertise. So welcome and thank you, and I too have enjoyed working with you over the course of the past 9 days. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Baugh, you're next with the proclamation designating October 25th, 2022 as Dr. George Van Buren Day in Manatee County.
Please join me up here if you would, please. Everybody up here, just come on both sides. Y'all are going to have to forgive me. I'm a little hoarse today because allergies are just killing me this year. But I am very excited to be a part of this proclamation today. I know that Commissioner Whitmore, I'm sure she's listening, and she would have been here instead of me, so I'm honored that I get to have this moment. So let me go ahead and read it, the proclamation. Whereas, for 37 years, Dr. George Van Buren had served as a pediatrician with dedication to the underserved community after having received his degree in medicine from the University of Cincinnati College of Medicine, and in 2013 was awarded the Jesse Trice Distinguished Clinic and Award by the Florida Association of Community Health Centers, which is given annually for outstanding commitment in providing service for the underserved, dedication to quality improvement, and healthcare innovation. And whereas, beginning in July 1995, Dr. Van Buren began his service as Manatee County Government's Children's Service Advisory Board's second ever physician, representative, and longest-serving physician appointed by the Board of County Commissioners. And whereas in 1999, Dr. Van Buren was instrumental in the creation of MCR's free back-to-school physicals program, leading a volunteer team of MCR employees conducting free back-to-school sports physicals for local youth. And whereas Dr. Van Buren has served as Senior Vice President of Medical Affairs and Medical Director for MCR Health, as well as Chief of Staff at Manatee Memorial Hospital, as well as the hospital's Board of Governors. And whereas throughout the community, Dr. Van Buren volunteered his time as chairman of the All Care Options Board of Directors and Board of Directors of the Bradenton Police Athletic League. I think everybody knew him, it's fair to say. Whereas Dr. Van Buren always went above and beyond, volunteering in various activities, including Free the Children, toy drives, back-to-school supplies, and home makeovers. He was known for showing up for employees and patients, sporting and academic events. Dr. Van Buren was a true child advocate, that he was. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Manatee County that November 3rd, 2022 shall be known, designated, and set aside as Dr. George Van Buren Day in Manatee County, Florida, adopted with a quorum, present and voting, this third day of November 2022, signed by our chair, Kevin Van Ostenbridge, and Angelina Calaniso, clerk of the court. Who do I present this to? How about a
Thank you very much.
I'm going to go right to Commissioner Whitmore and then Commissioner Servia. And then do you want to speak now or do you want me to come back to you?
Come back now.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Dr. Melvin Price, Vice President of Medical Affairs for MCR Health. I'm speaking on behalf of my colleagues here, as well as Mr. Carnegie, who is our President and CEO. Dr. Van Buren was a tremendous individual, an absolute humanitarian. He would go out of his way to do anything for anybody. He saw the good in everybody, no matter, even if we just thought they didn't deserve it. He saw the good in everybody and in everything. He would take his time to go, it didn't matter if you were his patient or your child was his patient. He would visit anyone and everyone at any hospital. He'd drive up to All Children's just to visit with a child that even wasn't his patient, come back and talk to the parent so that they can put that parent at ease. It's the kind of person he was. Just as a quick aside, I mean, everyone in this county, I think, would know Dr. Van Buren or knows of him or was treated by him. I stopped at a McDonald's at 5 in the morning, and I had a young lady give me my coffee and said, "Oh, I heard about Dr. Van Buren. He was my pediatrician." And she says, she's also my daughter's pediatrician, and wanted to know all about him. If you did know him, you missed something tremendous. At MCR Health, we'll miss him, but he'll never be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to make a statement before we go to the commissioners? All right, Commissioner Whitmore, you have the floor, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Price. I'm so glad you could come. And the gentleman at the dais here, I'm assuming is Dr. Van Buren's son. Sorry. And I just want to let you know, I've known your dad excuse me, 1 minute. Maddie quit. Sorry. I've known your dad since the day he came into town. I actually gave him an orientation to Manatee County and to Manatee Hospital. And he was a good friend. He was actually also a physician to my daughter. And Dr. Price, I'm so glad you could make it. And I'm glad the family, he was a special person. And not one person up here has mentioned the camera. Dr. Van Buren never went anywhere without a camera. And I can't imagine how many thousands of pictures he took everywhere he went, every event he went. Your dad, your husband was a wonderful soul. My husband treated him years ago when he was run over by a car. And we had a special friendship, my husband and him. And I just want to thank you for making the hard trip to be recognized today, because he totally deserved it. So bless all of you, and thank you for coming.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Servia.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're all here. Dr. Van Buren is someone who will have a lasting legacy beyond generations. In this county, he's an example to so many people. Dr. Price, you're the same. And for those doctors who dedicate their lives to serving the underserved, I mean, there's a special place in heaven for people like you. And I love to hear that he never, ever had a bad word to say about anyone, that he always just tried to help and did, and made such an impact on our community. We all loved him. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Hopes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, I had the fortune and some 20 years of knowing and working with Dr. Van Buren on and off with my role with the Florida Association of Community Health Centers. And I know Deputy County Administrator Ryan Shuttle, who spent, I think, 15 years with FAC, got to know him as well. And he just had an exceptionally kind soul. And I think when you mentioned that you just never heard him say a negative word, he did always find the good in everyone. And he's going to be sorely missed. He was just an exceptional physician, and he made contributions statewide with the community health centers, and was really instrumental in elevating the clinical education programs for physicians that were new to the FQHCs in the state. And I know, Dr. Price, you too have seen the growth. I think when we started, there were maybe 23 or 24 FQHCs in the state, and maybe less than 100 locations, and now it's 45 or 50, and over 350 sites for FQHCs. And he was instrumental in always championing the value and the need for all children to have access to primary care. And this community, lost an incredible soul.
Thank you, sir. And I'll just close out by saying, literally everyone knew your dad, right? I coached at PAL, and so I knew him from my time there. And you're right, Dr. Price, I think his legacy is humanitarian. I thought that word was really on point and a great way to describe it. I'm so glad that Commissioner Whitmore put this on the agenda and that we did this today to honor him, because he has a tremendous legacy in Manatee County and deserves the recognition. I'm so sorry for your loss, but thank you for coming. Yes, thank you. Commissioners, we are going to move to citizens' comment on future agenda items is next on our list. So at this time, no one has filled out a card to speak, but at this time, if there's anyone in the audience who would like to come forward, before they do, I'll remind everyone that it is not acceptable to campaign inside of this chamber. So any campaign material will need to be covered up. Sir.
For the record, Glenn Gibolina. So, good to see you all here this morning. Want want to talk about future agenda items. One of my favorite is
So,
renewal.
sir, you really are going to have to cover up your shirt. I can't have you campaigning.
How's that?
Yeah, that's fine.
that
You got to
better?
cover it up. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. I mean, this one here, Cindy Spray. Got it. Okay. So let's talk about renewable energy. So, you know, last 4 years I've been touting renewable energy. We have hundreds and thousands of square feet of building material and all building roofs, including the port. In the last 4 years, we have not done one solar panel. So very disappointed in that. The other thing I want to talk about is Lena Road. I still think we need to put that into land trust, just my personal opinion. I see I just got a note this morning that it was extended to January 3rd for the bids. 60 days is, I don't think, is long enough when you're talking about a 30, 40, 50, $100 million project. That should be extended. I got to look at my notes here. So water, you know, potable water, we're going to have a problem with that. I don't know why we don't change some of the practices we do, like using rainwater to flush our toilets. It's crazy that we use potable water, drinking water to flush our toilets. I don't get it. Today you're going to talk about a lot of stuff that you're going to pass concerning housing. And all of them are going to pass, and we're going to put you're going to put thousands of houses on the market, and again, we do not have a policy for workforce housing. Nobody's paying into the kitty. Nobody's stepping up to the plate. Certainly the developers are not stepping up to the plate, saying, well, we're going to set aside 10% for workforce housing. They'll come in there and let them build the houses, but they just can't live there. That policy has to change. And there are great policies across the country on how we can fund workforce housing, and this board has not moved in that direction. George, you got great ideas. I think we need to set those in policies, and hopefully with the new board, we will set some of those policies in. But, you know, 160 acres, Lena, 30 acres density, 1,800 workforce housing. I've already written Blue Sky and other nonprofit workforce housing developers and invited them to look at this, seriously look at this property. Even at 1,800, we're still short about 40,000 of workforce housing. We got to move that. We have to move that needle. We're not moving it. Dr. Hopes, you're doing a great job on trying to move it, but we can do more. The board can direct you to do more, and hopefully the new board will do that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward at this time to speak on a future agenda item, an item that may appear before this board on a future agenda? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go to the phone. Has anyone called in to speak on a future agenda item? No one has called in. We're going to close public comment on future agenda items, and we'll move to consent. So we're looking for a motion to approve consent minus items number 62, 9, and 30, unless there are any other items that we would like to pull from consent at this time. Are there any other items to be pulled at this time?
I make the motion for approval as you just read it.
Okay, minus 62, 9, and 30. Motion by Commissioner, well, we actually have a motion already on the board by Commissioner Baugh. I apologize. So I need somebody to click the second button. Okay, so the motion is made to approve consent minus items 62, 9, and 30. Motion is made by Commissioner Baugh. It is seconded by Commissioner Servia. So at this time, we're going to open up public comment to the consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to speak on an item on today's consent agenda that is not item 62, 9, or 30? Could you turn it inside out or something for me? Cover it up. Cover it up. You got to cover it up.
Okay, so I want to talk about the resolution number 51 that you're giving a continuance to McLeod Land Trust. That's on the agenda. Oh, well, what am I talking?
That's on our agenda. It's not consent,
Not
sir.
consent.
Correct. This is
And
consent
9 is
only.
pulled, right? Want to talk about 9?
9 is pulled.
And 60 is pulled.
62 is pulled.
60 was removed.
It was removed. All right, I'll be back.
Is there any, and you have time to change your shirt. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak on consent minus 62, 9, 30? Okay, then we're going to go to the phone. Is anyone called in to speak on consent? Okay, we're going to close public comment on consent. We've held public comment. There are no commissioners on the board. We have a motion by Baugh for approval and a second by Servia, so we'll hold the vote at this time. If we could get that pulled up.
Aye.
Okay, so Commissioner Whitmore votes aye. And it passes by, well, you cannot abstain, sir.
Yes, I'm a yes.
Is a yes. Okay, so consent passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. Okay. You guys are making me earn my money today, I'll tell you what. All right, then we're going to move on. At 10:06, we're going to move on to advertised public hearings, presentation upon request. The first item on the list is item number 48, which is a county-initiated Land Development Code text amendment for accessory dwelling units, ADUs. This is legislative in nature. Ms. Shank, did you want to make a statement?
Just, why don't we go ahead and swear people in on quasi-judicial, because some of these items are quasi-judicial.
Okay, I think we were doing all the legislatives first, but we can do that now if you like.
On request.
We can do that now if you like. Yeah, Madam Clerk, so if anyone here plans to speak or testify during any of the quasi-judicial hearings today, to be safe, if you're not sure if your item is quasi-judicial, just go ahead and stand now to be sworn in. So if anyone plans to speak in public comment or to testify at any point during these hearings, please stand now, raise your right hand, and be sworn by our clerk.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the factual statements and representations you are about to make to the Board of County Commissioners are truthful and accurate? I do. Thank you. When you step to the podium, please state your name if you have been sworn and your county of residence.
Okay. So item number 48, Bill O'Shea is our principal planner, along with Nicole Knapp, it looks like. But it's presentation upon request. Does anyone need a presentation on accessory dwelling units and this text amendment?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to state that on 48, there's been no changes made between first and second reading. Is that correct, Nicole?
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Nicole Knapp, Comprehensive Planning Manager, and I have been sworn. That is correct. There's no changes between the first and second reading.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so with no changes made, why don't we go ahead and open this up to public comment? Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on item number 48, the ADU item?
I'll make this short. Glenn Jablin for the record. ADUs, great concept. I think it has failed miserably in this county because I think we've only got like 8 permits. We need to encourage our developers to add mother-in-laws and ADUs to existing housing. And again, you know, I have a 13,000 square foot lot and I cannot put an ADU on my residential lot. So the insanity of that, of this future land use LM, oh Glenn, you can't put an ADU there to help out on the housing crunch because your future land use is LM. Our whole community's LM. We're not going anywhere. So that is a bad, destructive policy for homeowners like me and my community that might want to help out. So that needs to be corrected. They should be allowed anywhere. If there's a house, there should be allowed an ADU. Now, you have special overlays for, you know, the crybabies up at Whitfield. But for the rest of the county, they should be allowed anywhere, regardless of what's your future land use. That's a very destructive property. It hurts additional housing that we could do for workforce housing. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak on item number 48 on today's agenda? All right, seeing no one, has anyone called in or raised their hand to speak on this item? All right, we're going to close public comment at this time. Before Commissioner Cruz goes, because I know he's going to make some very good statements, I'll just state that we have a motion to approve by Commissioner Baugh and a second by Commissioner Servia. And then I'll add that I agree with a lot of what Mr. Gibolina said. However, this is compromise, is sort of the nature of the business we're in here, and I'm not willing to reopen and rehash all this all over again. So I will accept what we have. The order of the board is Cruz and Servia. Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, I'll be quick, because this is not about the language, more a response to Glenn. to say this has been a failure is entirely disingenuous. This was something that's been worked on for years and years in Manatee County unsuccessfully. Last year, we finally got this approved. We've opened it up to allow people to do ADU. Sarasota's had this on their books for years, and they don't have a whole lot. ADUs are just hard to get people to build. We made this an option for people. We can't force people to use that option. Sarasota has, 80 of them in 10 years? I mean, it's not like other communities have come up with the magic bullet. We researched all of the other communities. We took best practices to put what we felt was the best option for ADUs here. People can use it or not. We can't force people to build accessory dwelling units in their own backyard. We've made it available for people to do it. So to call it a failure after years of not even having this option is just, I mean, I understand you're looking for the perfect solution. We're up here looking for the best solution for Manatee County. And sometimes that means certain areas don't have it. Sometimes that means there's size restrictions. I think we were very flexible on this ADU. Don't forget, working with the Affordable Housing Board, we got rid of the minimum bedroom count. We increased the size. We made the size only for under air as opposed to under cover. We pull back on the parking ratios. We have a very flexible ADU system. We still can't get people to use it. Is there a better solution? Maybe. And will we be open to revising this? Certainly. But right now, let's see how this plays out before we start assuming something doesn't work, because we can't force people to do it. We can just encourage people. We're not charging impact fees right now on these, which is a huge gain for them. We've made accommodations that other communities haven't made. I think we have a more flexible ADU policy than other communities do. If only 8 people want to use it, then that's more of that's more about what the market will bear more than how our structure is put together. So I hear what you're saying about your house. You've brought it up before. I'm on record as saying I think residential should be allowed in virtually every zoning category in Manatee County. That would, of course, be inclusive of ADUs. I don't disagree with you that whether you're grandfathered in or approved in, if you have a residence on a parcel of land right this minute, then we've effectively, as a county, allowed for residents on that parcel. I don't know why we haven't allowed you to put an ADU. I 100% agree with you with that. That is something I think we should change. If we've allowed you to put a home on a parcel, we should allow you to put an ADU on that parcel. So that part of it, I agree with you. The general concept of this being a failed policy, I disagree with, but I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. And if I implied that I thought it was a failure, I did not intend to do that. So I don't think the policy is a failure. I think compromise has won the day, and that's fine. It's just imperfect. Commissioner Servia.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Cruz. I agree with most everything that you said. And just to follow up, Mr. Gibolina, I know that you personally would like to have an ADU, but remember, you have a non-conforming home in an area that is designated industrial, and you can't intensify that in an industrial future land use category. And I agree that homes should be allowed in most zoning districts, but not heavy industrial zoning districts. We are in charge of protecting the health, safety, welfare, and when you start introducing homes in industrial areas, it's a problem. And just to be clear, Mr. Gibolina's home was built when it was residential property, so it's a very old subdivision, and then trends and things change over the years. Now he finds himself with a non-conforming use. Mr. Chairman, I know you're busy over there getting coffee, but I would also like to ask that you please do not allow the public to name call. I don't want to hear any name calling. I did not appreciate what you said about the Whitfield neighborhood. Please keep it professional.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Satcher, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think that the jury's still out, and that this is only supposed to be one piece of an overall solution for the community. One thing I would like to see us do as a county is to see us start to not just work on, and of course we need to get it finalized, but not just making the right regulation, that helps, but also getting word out. Because especially something like this is something that we're hoping for just normal citizens to take advantage of. So we're not necessarily, I mean, if developers take advantage of it, that's great as well. But we want people to know, hey, you can make this an official thing over your garage or, you know, whatever the situation is. So I'd like to see us with a, just a real simple, this is not a perfect thing, but here's the difference in a guest house, here's an advantages, here's an ADU and who might qualify, here's the taxes on one, here's the taxes on the other. You know, a little heads up that you may run into trouble if you're in an HOA community, but that's outside of our control. And so people can just see a real, just to get them started, to know which route they might want to take if they have a, you know, college student that might be moving back home, or they have a mother-in-law, or they're looking for extra income and need help paying their rent. You know, they want their wife to be able to stay home with the new baby, and they need to replace that income. Well, if they could put something, you know, in the backyard, it might make a difference. So I think getting the word out is something that we also need to work on in the future. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Whitmore.
Yeah, in all due respect, this has been going on for 10 years, and that's true. We started out at 300 square foot, and Glenn's back there, and he knows that. And then as commissions changed, they changed the size they preferred, and it went on, and it took forever because nobody could come to some consensus. So this board finally came to a consensus where we actually were able to do something. So it's not like we hadn't been trying to do anything, we just could not get in a consensus. I still supported the 300 foot because it was originally, or maybe even 400, I think 500 we finally compromised on, and then it went from there. But in all, you know, we, like Commissioner Van Alstenbridge said, we had to compromise. So at least we finally got where we are today. But it's not like we just sat on it and waited. And Glenn can tell you that it brought up about 3 or 4 times a year, and it was just never went anywhere because nobody would agree. It was something we had never done before. And what Commissioner Cruz said is surprising. You know, I guess in the counties south of us, they're not doing as many as I thought would. So that hopefully we'll see more here. And Commissioner Satcher, the word's out. I know people have been waiting till we get something done. So I'll support the motion.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So we've held public comment. We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Baugh and a second by Commissioner Servia. There are no other commissioners on the board, so we'll cast our votes at this time.
Aye.
Thank you, Commissioner Whitmore. So Commissioner Whitmore votes aye. The motion passes by a vote of 6-0. All right, next is item number 49. Mrs. DePaul, would you please introduce item number 49?
Item number 49, LDCT-22-16, Ordinance 22-72, County-Initiated Land Development Code Text Amendment on Setbacks, PLN 2206-0012. This is a legislative item. We have Bill O'Shea and we have Nicole Knapp here this morning. If you wish to have a presentation, this is presentations upon request.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So this item is presentations upon request. Are there any commissioners who would like to request a presentation at this time?
And Mr. Chair, I'd just like staff to say whether there's been any changes between first and second hearing on the text amendment.
Correct. Again, for the record, Nicole Knapp, Comprehensive Planning, and there has been no changes between the first and the second reading in the Exhibit A.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Just so the folks in the audience understand as we zip along here, because we have a motion by Commissioner Baugh to approve and a second by Commissioner Servia. This is the second reading for these items that you're hearing. We've already gone through this once, but the law requires us to vote on these items twice. So they've already passed once to make it to this point, which is why we're not having a full-on second presentation on these. Let's open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward at this time to speak on item number 49? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go to the phone. Has anyone called in? No callers. All right, slow day on the phones there. We will close public comment, and we will go ahead and cast our votes. A motion by Baugh to approve, and a second by Servia. Commissioner Whitmore, how do you vote?
Aye.
Say Commissioner Whitmore is an aye, and it passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. All right, then we'll move on to item number 50. Mrs. DePaul.
Item number 50, LDCT-22-10, Ordinance 22-67, County Initiated Land Development Code Text Amendment, Half Dwelling Unit and Multifamily Parking Ratio, PLN 2205-0093. Again, this is a legislative item, and we have Nicole Knapp. This is presentation upon request, unless you'd like one.
And, excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Staff has made a change between first and second reading, so I would ask staff to, if you are willing, to let her explain the change, and then I have a comment afterwards.
Okay, real quick. Commissioner Servia, did you want to speak? Did you want a full presentation, or were you just addressing the change that had been made?
I'll speak after the staff
After
does.
Nicole?
Thank you.
Okay. Mrs. Knapp?
Again, for the record, Nicole Knapp, Comprehensive Planning Division Manager, and as County Attorney Shank said, we have made a minor change between the first and second reading. There was some concerns raised at the last hearing regarding the parking ratio being perhaps a little low, and so it caused staff to pause and look at that, and actually, in all transparency, it's great that it was raised because we've actually made what we would consider a little bit of an error. We didn't consider when we proposed 1.0 parking spaces that then after the fact, applicants can apply for administrative reductions thereafter that for affordable housing at 30% or market rate development at 10%. So to make sure that we get at least one parking space, we've suggested that we increase the parking to 1.4. Therefore, whether it's be affordable housing or market rate, we'll get between 1 and 1.2, which when we look at all the other jurisdictions for efficiency, one bedrooms, studios, or under 900 square feet, all the other jurisdictions have between 1.2 and 1.5 anyway, so it'd be consistent.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. Servia and Cruz is the order. Commissioner Servia.
Right, so I commented on this during the first reading. I'm happy to see that the parking ratio has been increased. That's a great thing, although it's still less than is required by the code. And so my professional opinion is that we should have a parking analysis that is with every project that shows how the parking will work. Because most people have a car to live in Manatee County, and if you just have one person living in a unit, it will be fine. But I suspect you're going to have several with two people living in it and two cars, and we just don't want people parked illegally. So I still support having a parking analysis, and I don't like the half dwelling unit concept because it has not proven to increase affordable housing in a pilot project that Sarasota County has done. And I think it just is an extra step of calculating how much density you can have on a piece of property. I think that we should increase the densities on many properties in Manatee County and do that by changing the future land use category so that it's clear. I don't want to add another mathematical equation. It's just very confusing to the public. So for those reasons, I don't support this.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, I noticed the parking go up, and I was on the opposite side of Commissioner Servia's argument. I don't think we should have parking ratios for anything. I think it's just one more step of regulation. We're over here approving things about a couple of feet worth of setbacks and a couple of parking spaces. I mean, we're up here talking about making things more affordable, talk about making things more efficient in Manatee County, and we're over here like nitpicking regulations as a government to tell developers how to build their private properties to rent to private citizens. I think all of this is ridiculous. I think the fact that we have to have 3 different items on here to discuss how we're going to modify regulations shows how many regulations we have. You know, I'm fine with the one. I hear what you're saying, but what you're telling me, or the way I'm interpreting it, is because so many people game our system, and we know people are going to come back and game the system and try to get a reduction from what we tell them they're going to have. We're going to make it higher than it needs to be so that people, when they game the system, can get down to the level we want it to be. I mean, I would think there's easier ways of doing that, like you can just add wording like no less than 1.0. I mean, people that eliminates somebody coming in and saying, well, we start at 1, but now I'm going to get an affordable housing benefit and this benefit and that. Now I'm only at 0.6. Well, if you say at no 0.9, like no matter what benefits you get, it's no less than 1. Again, this is not requiring the 1. People can game the system one way and game it the other. If people feel the market will only bear 1.4 or 1.5 or 2.0 parking spaces, they're gonna build it. they're going to propose building it. And I don't think anybody in this administration or on the staff is going to push back on more parking, unfortunately. So, people can do that if they feel that's what's necessary to charge the rents they're going to charge and attract the tenants they're going to attract. But what you're saying is market rate developers have to build excess parking above and beyond what we even believe they need based upon our previous discussion, because some developers are going to trim the 1.4 to between 1.0 and 1.2, and that's where we want it to be. But if you don't know how to game the system, you're not willing to spend the money or the time putting in the proposals to lower it, then we're going to force you to build the 1.4, which we feel is probably in excess. It's in excess of Sarasota, which is 1.2. So, and I also disagree with the fact that a pilot program shows this isn't affordable. Again, there's a difference between capital A affordable and just reasonably priced. Maybe we start using that term a little bit more, because affordable implies tax credits, it implies LORAs, it implies a lot of things. But I don't care if my developer signs a LORA or not. If you're renting me a 500 square foot place at $2 per square foot, and rent in Manatee County used to be about $1.10 to $1.30 a foot. Now it's like $2 because rents have gone up so much over the past 3 to 5 years. If you're renting me a 500 square foot studio and I'm a 23-year-old single kid living downtown at $2 a foot, that's $1,000 a month. That is, lowercase a, affordable to me, because I don't have to pay you $2 a foot for 1,100 square feet just because you're providing me a den, a game room, and a dog park. And that's affordable to me. And that's what I'm concerned with, is creating incentives for people to build a mix of units that accommodate a mix of tenants and residents and citizens of Manatee County, and I believe this does. I don't agree that we should over ask for parking just because we're allowing for people to ask permission for less parking. I think we should just have less parking, and you cap a set minimum, saying at no point in time are we going to go below the 1.0 or whatever that final number is, as opposed to forcing people to waste our administrative time and their time and money just to get to the parking ratio we actually want in the first place.
Can I respond, please? So we had that as a second option, Commissioner Cruz. We had to pick between one or the other. The other option is we do exactly what you just said, where it's 1.0, 1.0, and no administrative reductions below that. But to be consistent with the way we treat every other type of parking requirement, we went with the latter, which was 1.4, so that we can remain consistent, making it easier on staff to review. But you can make a motion to change the language to say that, and that's what would be adopted.
Yeah, and I saw they were both on the agenda. There were two versions of this on the agenda, correct?
Just the updated memo should only have 1.4.
Maybe the updated one, but the online one, at least when I read it before my briefing, had both versions of this.
Mr. Chair, yeah, I did have a comment on that issue when.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have any legal objection to the change Commissioner Cruz mentioned about, on the call read about no administrative approved reduction in the parking and keeping it 1. I do have legal concern with changing it, the ratio to 1.4 parking spaces per half dwelling unit, because the ordinance title was advertised to put 1 in it, and the change didn't occur until 2 days before an update memo. So anyone looking at the agenda would know it was changed. And when you deviate from the ordinance title, you can only be less restrictive, not more restrictive at this stage in the adoption process. So it creates a procedural issue. So for the next 4 years, it could be challenged. Meanwhile, we're approving ADUs, could create a big ball of mess and legal challenges. So I have no problem with just saying that no administrative modifications. If Nicole can word that a little bit for us, if that's included.
Yeah, the other option is we request a continuance so that it can be brought forward in Exhibit A and it match 1.0 if we can't do it today.
Advertise, that's the other option, correct?
May I say one thing? So we do have at least one applicant that I know that is waiting for their development project, more than one, and one specific for affordable housing, which would add many units in affordable if this were passed. So I think that I think if we could offer the option for the commission to vote today on just adding the restriction of not allowing any reductions for any other reason and keeping it at the 1.0, I think I'd like to try to push that.
But Ms. Schenk, is that adding an additional, is that making the ordinance more restrictive?
Well, it's more of a procedural change, and it gives me less heartburn than changing the number outright.
Okay.
It's somewhat more restrictive, correct.
Commissioner Cruz, do you want to amend this then?
I'll refer to,
Ms. Shank?
I'll defer to the county attorney on how to amend that, but yes, I'd rather have it as just the 1.0 and whatever the wording is, where administratively you can't go below that. That's a floor threshold.
We would, if I may, you can add in the bottom of table 10.2 where we've described the 1.0, or in this case, the 1.4, we can add a statement at the end that says that 1.0 is required with no administrative parking reductions for half-dwelling units as may be permitted elsewhere in the code. And then that makes it 1.0.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bob, would you agree to that
Absolutely.
change? Commissioner Satcher, you're the second. Did you agree to that?
Sure.
Okay. So, Madam Clerk, there is a motion to approve by Commissioner Baugh and a second by Commissioner Satcher, and each agrees to staff's proposed amended
Mr.
change.
Chair?
Commissioner Whitmore.
Yeah, please, in the future, don't ever bring something to us with no parking restriction or no, what I'm hearing Commissioner Cruz say is just irresponsible. Because once those places get built, who do you think is going to get heck? You guys are. You got to allow some kind of parking for them. You can't just say, oh, let the market take care of itself. You can't do that. It's just totally irresponsible. And hopefully future boards will consider that when you bring more projects like this together. I'm okay with the one. I would rather have done the 1.2. We talked last time, but.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, it's Serbia and Satcher is the order of the board.
Thank you. I just, something for the record, and I'll ask the planner to be sure of this. I heard Commissioner Cruz say that anybody could ask for more parking than the code requires, and if they needed it, they would just ask for it. But do we allow more parking than required by the code in all areas of the county, or are there some areas where you can't do that?
You cannot exceed a 10% increase in what's required, whether it be residential or non-residential.
And in the watershed, do we allow more parking than the code requires?
I don't believe it's more than the 10%.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to
Okay,
confirm.
I just wanted to get the record clarified. Thank you.
So that puts up to 1.1.
So if someone felt they needed more, they couldn't go above 1.1 without asking for specific approval. Forcing plan development, yeah.
Commissioner Satcher, you're next on the board, sir.
I was just going to ask, have we seen circumstances like, say, Manatee Memorial has their interns? Nobody's got a car. They just build a nice place, apartments for them. They're going to walk to the hospital. Or a school, a college, and that's it. Have we seen somebody that is really low on the parking need? It's an apartment right by the beach, and everybody's Ubering to get there and stay for a week, and then they're leaving. Anything like that ever come up in the past?
No, not that I'm aware of. I think there's something to be said for what Commissioner Cruz said. Developers are going to build what their complex needs. It's probably they don't want a parking problem, because if they have tenants that can't have parking, they now have complaints. So I believe they will park, even if we didn't have a parking ordinance, what their product needs based off of their clients' needs, whether it be for 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, or studios.
That was my only question. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. No one else is on the board. Commissioner Boss stepped out, but we still have enough without her. She clicked her vote. All right, so we've held public comment on this. There are no other commissioners on the board, so let's go ahead and move forward with the vote. Cast your votes at this time.
Nay.
Commissioner Whitmore is a no. All right, so the vote then passes by a vote of 4-2. So the motion passes 4-2 with Commissioners Servia and Whitmore in opposition and Commissioner Bellamy absent. It is now 10:35. We're going to take a 10-minute recess, and we will return at 10:46. We're in recess. Okay, welcome back. We're continuing on to our land use hearing today, and we've moved on to item number 51. Mrs. DePaul, if you would go ahead and read item number 51 into the record, it is a continuance. Next several items will be continued.
Mr. Chair, do we have a quorum?
We do, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who are we missing?
Carol's on the phone.
And Carol's on the phone. Mrs. DePaul?
Item number 51, resolution R22-005 or R22-006, appeal of administrative determination AD-21-31. The applicant has requested to be continued to either 60 or 90 days. We have Marshall Robinson here if there are any questions.
And Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say legally, we have no objection to either time frame. It's 60 or 90. It's no difference. We were advised by the applicant's legal counsel that there was a legal impediment in a court hearing preventing them from closing on property to relocate, but that's since been resolved. So they're optimistic on moving forward. So I'm passing that on.
Commissioner Cruz has made a motion to defer this item. Were you deferring this for 60 or for 90 days, sir?
That's why I put myself on, just to clarify. I'm making a motion to continue for 90 for two reasons. One, January 19th is just a ton of stuff all being continued to it, so no reason to add something else to it. Sure. Second, if the intent of this continuance is because they're actively working in good faith to find an alternative site, we've deferred this so many times. I'd rather give them the 90 days and say, fix your problem, and then come back, and hopefully it just gets disregarded in its entirety. If they find a new parcel, this is not an issue. So my motion's 90 days.
And Mr. Chair, just for the record, that date is February 2nd, 2023 at 9:00 a.m. or soon thereafter. This may be heard.
Okay, so Madam Clerk, we have a motion by Commissioner Cruz to continue this for 90 days, which will be February 8th. And this motion
February 2nd.
Sorry, February 2nd. And this has been seconded by Commissioner Baugh. All right, we're going to open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on item number 51, the continuance? So, sir, please state your first name, your last name, your county of residence, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak on this item.
Glenn Gibelina for the record, Manatee County. And by the way, you didn't open item 50 yet either.
We will.
This 90 days, this is crazy. It says here, 26.6 acres located at 7405. I am at 7110. I'm 4 blocks away from this. So when they're looking for other property, I don't know what they're talking about. Nothing's going to change in 60 or 90 days unless they take it out east. You know, I rode around Sunday at the developer at the university, and I talked to the chair there, Mike, and I said, Mike, you guys are going to devalue your property. You're going to hear this crushing, rocking, dust, carcinogens in the air. They're 500 feet from where they're proposing this. So they're upset as well, and hopefully you got some phone calls from them. But this is not going to change in 60, 90, a decade. Rock crushing, heavy manufacturing does not belong next to residential. It's pretty simple. You devalue our homes, you endanger our health, and it's unacceptable. These guys have been terrible land stewards of the property they are currently on. They build buildings without permits. You know, their philosophy is, oh, we get caught, triple the fine, we'll just keep moving on. They're terrible. They got a weight scale in there that has never had a permit pulled. They do what they want. They have destroyed my neighborhood. Up to about 6 years ago, they were running their concrete trucks down our path. Finally, we got some speed bumps and some enforcement. But they are terrible. You should never even consider this type, because that concrete crushing is not like manufacturing. You know, putting together park bench.
Chair, we have to be careful here. The speaker should be focusing on the issue of the continuance.
All right, I'll talk about it. No continuance. 0. You want to continue it? Continue it for 10 years when I'm gone. That's when you should continue it.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak on the continuance, item number 51? All right, seeing no one, we'll go to the phone. Has anyone called in to speak on item 51?
This is quasi-judicial, Mr. Chair.
Oh, it is quasi-judicial, so there will be no phone calls.
Mr. Chairman.
But we're continuing this, though.
Still quasi-judicial.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry that I was late coming back to the meeting, but this is a topic that I wanted to speak on. And I wanted to say to the attorney that I did speak with a couple during the break, Because this is quasi-judicial, they asked me about the procedures, and I did tell them about it and what was going to happen. So for the record, just please know that I've disclosed that. Yeah, this is a continuance. I'm going to vote with what the attorney has recommended, which is for a continuance, but I want the shortest continuance possible. And I just want everyone to know that the people are suffering next door to this rock crushing and concrete crushing that is going on as early as 5 o'clock in the morning. And it's inappropriate. It was never legally permitted. And this needs to be resolved ASAP. It's been years.
Thank you. And it does not say on my form that it's quasi-judicial, although I believe you.
It is.
Okay, that's okay. All right, there are no other commissioners on the board. We have held public comment. We can go ahead and hold the vote at this time. And the vote passes by a vote of, well, Commissioner Whitmore, how do you vote? Commissioner Whitmore? Okay, so the vote passes by a vote of 5-0.
Sorry, the staff just cleaned it out again. I vote for it.
So you vote yes. So it passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. We are then going to go to item number 52, which is also a continuance. Mrs. DePaul, if you would introduce item 52.
Item number 52-21-25, ZP Jordan Creek at Manatee, William Monroe Roulette Academy for the Arts and Communication, Inc. is the owner, PLN 2110-0084. This is a quasi-judicial item, and again, we're asking to be continued to December 15th, 2022 at 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter as same may be heard.
Thank you, ma'am. So, Commissioners, all items from this point are quasi-judicial, as noted on your agenda. Does anyone have any ex parte communication they would like to disclose on this item? Okay, hearing none. It is a continuance. We'll entertain motions, and we have a motion by Commissioner Servia and a second by Commissioner Baugh to continue this. No one's on the board, so we'll open it to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on item number 52? Okay, seeing no one, we'll close public comment. There are no commissioners on the board, so please cast your votes on the continuance at this time.
Record that date.
Aye.
It's December 15th, 2022, at 9 o'clock a.m.
Okay, Commissioner Whitmore votes aye, and so the motion passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. We're then going to move to item number 53, Mrs. DePaul.
Item number 53, PDMU-18-11ZG, Riverfront PDMU, RFT Holdings LLC, PLN 1806-0051. It's quasi-judicial again. And this is to be continued to January 19th, 2022 at 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter as same may be heard.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion by Commissioner Satcher to continue this item and a second by Commissioner Baugh. We'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on item number 52? All right, seeing no one, we'll close public comment. We have a motion, we have a second. There are no commissioners on the board. We'll go ahead and hold the vote at this time.
So just for record, it's 53, correct?
This is item number 53. I apologize. Item number 53.
For record, the continuance date is January 19th, 2023, at 9 o'clock a.m. as soon thereafter as may be heard.
Commissioner Whitmore, how do you vote?
Aye.
We're missing someone's. Okay, there we go. So the vote passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. We're then going to jump ahead on your schedule here to item number 57.
Item number 57, PDMU-21-12ZG, and that's McClure MWR Mixed Use Development with McClure Properties LTD as the owner, PLN 2106-0038. Again, it's quasi-judicial, and this is to be continued to January 19th, 2023 at 9 a.m. or as soon thereafter as same may be heard.
Okay, thank you. All right. There are no commissioners on the board. I do have someone signed up, Kathy Cully, to speak on item number 57. The request is for this item to be continued. Ms. Shank, what is the date for the continuance, the requested continuance?
January 19th, 2023. So if any citizen speaks, they don't have to speak on the issue of the continuance, not the merits of the project. People have to speak later on the merits on January 19th.
Correct. So is there anyone who would like to come forward now at this time to speak about the continuance of this project? Sir. So come down to the podium. Please state your first name, your last name, your county of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak on the continuance.
Okay, I'll make this pretty quick. My name is Harold Crusan. I live in Manatee County, and I have been sworn in. My only question on the continuance is, at the last meeting, we requested that some of the mapping and other information be updated to be more consistent to what's out there now. And when we meet again for the continuance in January, can the proposer have that information available then? Can you?
Your questions on the record, presumably the applicant's listening to you. We can also talk to Rosina Leidner, the staff person in planning, if you have questions.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak on the continuance? Okay, seeing no one, we're going to close public comment, and we will entertain motions at this time. I just need it pulled up on the screen. So the button has not shown it. There it is. All right. Oh, that's the motion to deny.
Well, Mr. Chair, the motion is in the update memo. It says, I move to continue the public hearing for PDMU 2112 ZG to January 19th, 2023, in 9:00 a.m. where soon thereafter may be heard at the Manatee County Government Administration Building, 112 Manatee Avenue West, first floor, Patricia M. Glass Chambers.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So we have a motion by Commissioner Servia, which has been seconded by Commissioner Cruz, to defer, in other words, to continue this item. We've held public comment. No one's on the board, so commissioners, please cast your votes. Commissioner Whitmore, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Whitmore votes aye. We're waiting on someone. Okay, there we are. So the motion passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. All right, that concludes all of our continuances today. I'll tell you what we'll do, and as sort of a segue before we jump into the rest of our items, is I've been told that we failed to hold public comment on item number 50, number 50, which was the half-dwelling units. So is there anyone like to come forward to speak on half-dwelling units, item number 50, at this time?
For the record, Glenn Gibolina, thank you, Chair, because I got to get to work, so thank you for bringing that back up. So let me, let's beat up the ADU and parking, right? So, we want at least a parking spot, maybe two. Let me tell you what I can do right now, any developer can do right now without an ADU, right? With no parking restrictions. I can add a two-room house to an existing house, separate entrance, make one a bedroom, make one a flex room, put a refrigerator, microwave, and induction in there, right? So-called kitchen, and that's perfectly legal without doing any parking changes, right? Currently, we can have up to 6 different people. So if a developer or I wanted to build a 8-bedroom house, right, 2-car garage, I could build that. No parking restrictions. I then can move forward and rent 6 of those rooms out to 6 different people, maybe 6 college kids, right? With no parking restrictions. And I'm with you, George. Get rid of them. Because right now, if you want to skirt the process, I just told you how to do it. And there would be no pushback from this commissioner. I'm building an 8-bedroom house. 8-bedroom, 10-bath house. Oh, that's great, thanks. And I can go rent out 6 of the rooms, put a little microwave in there, a little induction cooktop, call it a day, and rent those out to 6 different students or workforce housing. That can be done right now, today, without any parking clarifications at all. So if you wanna beat up anybody, beat the guys up that are doing that. But George, you're right. If you're going to get pushback, you'll hear it from the neighbors, and hopefully the developers if they are going to do that and build a 6-bedroom, 6-bath house to rent out to 6 different people, because legally we can do that right now, today. Hopefully they would have the vision to say, you know what, I'm going to get 6 workforce housing folks in there at 300 square feet at a nickel a month. I'm going to put in an 8-car garage, right? Hopefully they would have that vision to let the free market take care of the problems they may have down the road. So this ADU with the parking, especially over .1, is absolutely insane. I don't think there should be any parking restrictions because you could skirt the law right now. Again, 2-bedroom, add an addition, separate entrance. Technically, it's an ADU, no parking. You're not going to ask for anything on that. No impact. There might be a little bit of impact fees, but listen, if you want to pull the curtain back and see how to do it, you can do it that way. So there are loopholes in the system that you're never going to correct, right? And again, penalizing someone that wants to put in an accessory dwelling unit is insane. Thank you. I'm going to work.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak on item number 50? Sir, please state your first name, your last name, your county of residence, and you have 3 minutes to speak on item 50.
I'm not going to use 3 minutes. Caleb Grimes, county of residence, Manatee. Just very briefly, when I heard it before, you passed it at 1, which I think is good. And as Ms. Knapp said, that if you want to go over 1.1, you only get 10%. Something you may want to do what Mr. Cruz said, if somebody wants to put 2 per one of these, and you shouldn't be prevented from doing it, is maybe on that footnote you just say minimum 1, maximum 2. And then that way there's a range in there and you can do it, and it doesn't have to get specific approval to have more parking for those spaces. Just a little suggestion.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to come forward to speak on item 50? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Commissioner Cruz, you're on the board, sir.
I'll be like 10 seconds. I just want to say I 100% agree with everything Glenn just said.
Okay, thank you, sir. So we're going to close up item 50 then, and we're going to move on to item number 54, which is quasi-judicial. And we'll ask, does anyone have any ex parte communication to disclose on this item? Okay, hearing none, then Mrs. DePaul, would you please read the item into the record?
Item number 54, Z-22-02, Mark Cahill Investments, LLC rezone. Mark Cahill Investments, LLC is the owner, PLN 2201-0147. And we've got Dakota here if there are any questions or a presentation is requested.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Who's here to represent the applicant?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Bob Schmidt with Land Planning Associates, and I have been sworn. I'll be happy to defer to any questions if you don't want a presentation. Otherwise, I'll whatever the wish of the board is.
Thank you, sir. Would anyone like a presentation by staff? That's a no. All right, we'll open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public? I don't have any cards, so is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on item number 54 at this time? Okay, seeing no one, I assume there are no closing comments from the applicant or staff. All right, thank you. And there's no one on the board for debate, so we'll entertain motions. We have a motion by Commissioner Servia to approve, and that's been seconded by Commissioner Cruz. So I'll cast our votes at this time.
Aye.
Commissioner Whitmore votes aye. I'm just waiting on someone to cast their vote. There we go. So it passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. Continuing on with quasi-judicial, we'll go to number 55. Mrs. DePaul, please introduce item 55.
Item 55, Z-22-06, Rye Road Single Family Cottages Twin Rivers LLC is the owner. PLN 2208-0009, and we've got Dorothy Rainey here if a presentation is requested.
Thank you. Who's here to represent the applicant? Are there any ex parte communications to be disclosed at this time? Okay, hearing none.
Carol Clark, Manatee County. I have been sworn, and I do want to tell you that in nearly 44 years of making presentations in Manatee County, this is probably the simplest thing I've ever presented. So it's 1.33 acres in UF3, and I want to thank staff very much because it was recognized that this is one of those things that is really not difficult to make a decision on. So it's 3 months from when we made an application to this final action, which is a win-win for all of us. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Cruz is on the board.
Oh, I don't have a question. I just had a statement when it got to that point.
Okay. Staff, is there a presentation? No? Okay. Let's open this to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on item 55? All right, seeing no one, we'll close public comment. Commissioner Cruz, you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm glad you said 90 days and how happy you were. I think that's 90 days too much. This one kind of, I said it in my briefing, this one kind of almost upset me a little, not because of the request being made, but the fact that they had to make the request and spend 90 days taking a over 1 acre parcel of land just to build their own single family home on it. I mean, we need to do a better job of allowing people to use their private property on things that we all knew this was going to pass. There was no question of this. That was just 90 days of someone having to sit around without being able to utilize their land. So I wish there was a better way of doing some of this administratively on something like this that we should be allowing and encouraging people to do. They weren't coming here looking to build self-storage or a multifamily or make any meaningful change. They're going from A to A1 just so they can build a single family home. That I think this was 90 days too long.
Thank you, sir. Staff, any closing comments? Okay. Mrs. Clark, any comments?
No.
Okay. Then we have a motion by Commissioner Cruz to approve and a second by Commissioner Baugh. We can cast our votes at this time. Commissioner Whitmore, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Commissioner Whitmore is an aye, as is everyone else. The motion passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. We will then continue with quasi-judicial on to item number 56. Mrs. DePaul.
Item number 56, PDMU-22-07ZG, Bradenton Self-Storage, B&H Cattle Company is the owner, ABLO Bradenton LLC is the contract purchaser, PLN 2203-0097. And again, we've got Dorothy here to present if a presentation is requested.
Is there any ex parte communication to be disclosed on this item? Okay, hearing none. Who is here to represent the applicant?
Hi, good morning. Linda Stewart with Morris Engineering representing the applicant. We are available for any questions and a presentation if you request.
Can you pull the microphone down to you a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Would you like me to repeat?
She's available if you have questions, she said. Okay. Staff, any presentation? Okay. We're going to open this up to public comment. I'm sorry? Yeah, does anyone want a presentation from staff? Okay. We're going to open this up to public comment then. Item number 56. Is there anyone who would like to come forward to speak on item 56? All right, seeing no one, we're going to close public comment. There are no commissioners on the board. Nothing from staff. Any final comments from the applicant? No, I have to give you these opportunities legally, you understand. Okay, then we have a motion by Commissioner Servia to approve and a second by Commissioner Cruz. Everyone please cast your votes at this time on item 56.
Aye.
Commissioner Whitmore is an aye, as is the rest of the board. So this motion passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. Thank you so much. Congratulations. All right. I believe with that one, then, well, we have items that have been pulled from consent first. And so item number 9, Commissioner Whitmore, we'll go in numerical order. Item number 9 is pulled by Commissioner Whitmore. Ma'am, I'll give you the floor to discuss that item.
Okay, I'm sorry, I don't have it. Hold on, I've got it right in front of me. I have to do that on my iPad.
Is not-for-profit funding implementing
Yes, and it was about
expedited
it was, of
funding?
course, yes, and there was the area about turning points. Again, the money they asked for is not included in it. And then I know Hope's met with Galvano and Turning Points, and he said he would amend the budget later. I just don't understand why we don't amend the budget now when it's like 75,000, I think. If we wait, we're short 2 case managers out of 4 at Turning Points. And I know Senator Galvano has met once before and hopes that he would do it. And I was hoping it would be by today. I know Galvano and Kathleen Kramer talked to Hopes again, and it still hasn't changed. We could have amended the budget already. We can't we can't be short 2 case managers at Turning Point. So I'm asking the board, ask the administrator why he's done this, and we need to get this, or somebody needs to make a motion to add the difference to the money. Dr. Hope said the reason why is his staff didn't think they met the criteria, because this is a different program. This is case management. It's hard to do outcomes when you're trying to get, case managing these patients. Anyway, or these customers. So I would like to make them whole per their request, because obviously Dr. Hopes isn't going to do it anytime soon. And we need to make them whole. They're so busy with the economy and everything like it's going. They need their case management.
Commissioner Cruz, you're on the board, sir.
I agree with what Commissioner Whitmore said, and I would make a motion inclusive of the additional funds for Turning Points, and the county administrator can figure out where those $75 come from.
75,000. And okay, 75,000, I think it is. Whatever the money is, yeah.
I believe it was 75.
Okay.
If I may, their budget, the approved amount was for 75,000. They asked for 157,310. So it would be an additional $82,310.
Correct. Thank
That's
you.
okay. I'll modify my motion to give them the requested amount.
And I modify my second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Cruz and a second by Commissioner Baugh to increase and modify the amount, by an increase of $82,000 to Turning Points.
At the original
That's
ask.
sufficient, Mr. Clegg?
Yes, sir.
Okay. No one is on the board. I will open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on this item, number 9, at this time? Okay, seeing no one, there are no commissioners on the board. We've held public comment. We'll go ahead and we'll hold the vote at this time.
Thank you, board.
Yes, Commissioner Whitmore votes aye.
Do you want a verbal vote, since we don't have?
It's on your screen.
It's not right with the 80.
It's not correct, though.
Yeah, they'll modify it later.
I
So,
can't see who seconded the motion.
I did.
Thank you.
The motion by
Mr.
Cruz
Chairman,
and a second by Baugh.
to understand, we're going to click yes on a motion that's been amended, and this is not the correct motion.
Correct.
Okay.
By clicking yes, you're agreeing to increase the funding by $82,000. Okay, and the motion passes by a vote of 5-1 with Van Ostenbridge in opposition and Bellamy absent. All right, then item number 30 is the next item that was pulled. Commissioner Whitmore, the next numerical item anyway, that was your item as well. Transmittal letter to the Gulf Consortium submitting Manatee County State Expenditure Plan number 2 to add Manatee County Boat Ramp Project. Would you like to speak on that item?
Mr. Chair. Yeah, it's 4.5 million, as you know. And what we wrote is a boat ramp. I started with that board, and you can't just be, you have to be specific when you request money. And we said a boat ramp in Manatee County. I don't think that's going to fly. And I know what we want to use it for, but we have to have something designated. So what happens if we vote for this today and we go to the state and put this, I don't think it's going to pass. And then we're going to have to redo it again to be more specific. So I think you should delay this, make sure with staff, because there's new people now, and make sure that we are asking correctly for the right amount. And I'm almost positive it has to be for a specific project, not just a boat ramp, as one that's served on the board since its day of its inception.
Okay, so I don't have the document in front of me to read it.
It says a boat ramp.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me.
I read it, but yeah, I'm sorry.
This is another boat ramp.
Another boat ramp?
Just like you to delay it to your next meeting and have Dr. Hopes get something clear, because I don't think you should just, I know how that board works and they want specific projects. We just said a boat ramp. Well, it could be for year one and, with Whitey and Preston, it could be any of them, but it doesn't say.
The intention is for it to be the Sunny Shores boat ramp.
And
out
see, well, then they
Cortez.
should write that. They didn't write that. Unless I missed it. I'm almost positive I didn't.
I trust what Commissioner Whitmore is saying. She knows more about this board, so I would move to defer this until we have more clarity on our request.
So we have
I
a
don't have any
motion.
problems with it going to Sunny Shores, but it should be
Motion to
specific.
defer.
There.
It is. It's right there, and I'll second.
Make a motion to defer
We
it
have
to the next.
Yes, we have a motion by
did, I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Cruz to defer this item. It's not quasi. Do we need to state a date to which we're deferring it? No, okay. So in the second by Commissioner Van Ostenbridge. Commissioner Satcher, you're on the board, sir.
I'll withdraw my request.
Okay, thank you, sir. We're going to open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on item number 30? Anyone from the public? All right, seeing no one, we'll go to the phone. Is anyone called in to speak on item 30? No one has called in. We're going to close public comment. There are no commissioners on the board. We can cast our votes on the deferment at this time.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, the motion that we're voting on is the one that was verbally amended, not the one on the screen, right?
You're making a motion to defer this item.
Right.
The screen says motion to defer in bold letters. Commissioner Whitmore, how do you vote?
Aye.
So the motion to defer passes by a vote of 6-0 with Commissioner Bellamy absent. Okay. So then we are on to item number 62, which is an item that I pulled. Item 62 is located obviously between item number 7 and item number 8. Commissioner Baugh, it's located between item 7 and item 8,
got it.
just where you would expect it would be. Right.
Don't we need Scott here for this one?
Okay. I don't know, but he's not here, and I've pulled it. So I have spoken with and this item, just so everyone is clear, is a facilities usage agreement at the future high school site at Rangeland and Post in Lakewood Ranch, and it's an agreement with the county and the school board. The agreement would be for, it's a debris site, right? We're doing yard debris and yard trash, and we are taking it from homes, we're bringing it to that location. This is landscape material, and it is being transitioned there into the chipper, chipped, and then taken to the landfill from that point. This is part of the Hurricane Ian recovery, and the school board, from my understanding, is that we had management who showed some leadership during the recovery, verbally spoke with the school district management, and came to an agreement on this and hit the ground running. As a lot of things were taking place that way during that time, when you're in a recovery from a natural disaster, we rely on staff to do their best with what they have, and it seems that our staff did that, and I think school board staff did that as well. It's a time when the community comes together, and you expect governmental agencies to work together during that time and to sort of make things happen, because things happen on the fly. Law enforcement, fire districts, mayors, all these different municipalities and different government bodies work together during that time. And some relationships grew stronger. I had lunch with Mayor Titsworth this week. As a result of the communications that we had during the hurricane, we felt that our relationship had improved, and so we had a good, productive lunch this week. Superintendent Saunders and I had multiple conversations. And there's examples with the school district where we worked together, for instance, with shelters, where we had deputies on site. We had animal services on site and shelters that were pet friendly, working with the school board. So there was good collaboration, good cohesion. I was really pleased to see that during the storm and immediately after. Unfortunately, I don't agree with this. I'm not going to vote for this interlocal agreement. It's a request for $120,000 for the usage of that site. The school board, I guess, is under the impression that FEMA reimburses us for this sort of thing. They do not. FEMA reimburses us for the amount of material that we collect and process. But they do not reimburse us for the usage of site locations. So this is not money that would be reimbursed to Manatee County. And I would remind everyone, this is, including the school district, this is publicly owned land that we're discussing and that is being used. This is taxpayer property, and it is being used for a public purpose. And so it's disappointing that the school district would send us a $120,000 bill for the purpose of helping their constituents as well as ours. We share the same constituency. It's both county-wide governments. So as a result, I'm going to be a no on this. I'm a pretty firm no on this, actually. And I see I've inspired many of you to press your buttons. So the order of the board is Baugh, Cruz, Servia, and DePaul. Commissioner Baugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was really very shocked to see this come up on our agenda, and it's really for most of the reasons that you mentioned. You know, we are handling what has almost been a catastrophe for parts of Florida, and they want to try and make money off of us for that. So I think that's extremely tacky. But I also, there was an interlocal agreement signed October the 3rd of 1995 that I think clears this situation up a lot. You know, we do have an interlocal agreement to be able to use their property when needed for something such as this. So I will actually, Mr. Chairman, when you're ready, I'd like to make a motion to decline.
It is on your screen now, the motion to deny.
There it is. Look at the interlocal agreement. I believe
so-
that Ms. DePaul has put it on the documents.
Okay. Cruz and Servia are next. Commissioner Whitmore, I see a text from her, so she does go. So we'll go Cruz, Servia, Whitmore. Commissioner Cruz.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by this. I mean, to your point, we don't get reimbursed, and this money comes from the taxpayers. It's not like we don't just magically come up with $120,000. This is a parcel of land, mind you, that is undeveloped. It's not like we threw a bunch of debris in front of Dr. Mona Jane Middle School and had to shut down the school or utilize anything. It's not like they were imminently coming out of the ground. They've been sitting on this land now for years, not building on it to help the overcrowding of the high schools in Lakewood Ranch. And so we're utilizing the land for the good of the community. The community is not just this board of county commissioners, it's the school board as well. And this is an ideal location. It's large. It was clear. It gave us an opportunity to put the debris. And a lot of the debris was out east. And this was a close location to Myakka to allow us to help all of the citizens of Myakka, including the school children of Myakka, to remove their debris and put it in a centralized location so we can dispose of it. And, you know, you talk about the $10,000. There was an article where one school board member said that out of pure spite, it was literally in the article is what they said, they should charge us $25,000 a month, basically to extort more taxpayer money for the school board. Like $25,000 a month coming from the taxpayers to use vacant land. Where's the sense of community? You read all these articles about everyone helping out. You have restaurants saying, if you're out of power, come plug your plug in. I mean, what's next? Next time there's a hurricane, we're gonna have to charge citizens by the bed to use shelters and schools. Like, we're all working together here. I'm equally offended by this. We're not shutting anything down. We're not hindering anything from the school board. Everyone's contributing where they can to help us and help East County get through Hurricane Ian. So I'm fully on board with the chair on this.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Servia.
Okay, and so just a couple of comments to kind of understand the other side of the issue, and that is there was no process that was followed. And I understand it was in the event of an emergency, but I still don't know today why we didn't just take this to Lena Road. Why didn't we just take this debris to Lena Road? That's where we took it the last times. And if we had maintained that property next to the landfill, it would have been a no-brainer. But we didn't, and it belongs to someone else. It belongs to the school district. If the county had property that the school district decided to use without talking to us, I think everyone would feel differently here.
So I just hate that we're in this situation, but I think it's because we didn't think and analyze and take the steps that we needed to take in order to do it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sure 37% of your district agrees with you. Commissioner Whitmore, you're next on the board, ma'am.
That was kind of uncalled for, Mr. Chair. What happened was I sent Scott Hopes an email after when I read this in the paper, wherever I read it or heard about it. I said, did you forget you're not on the school board anymore? Because I was told that Cynthia Saunders told her board that she had talked about it, but she didn't say move forward with it. And that's what she told her board. And that's why her board was so upset. Can you imagine, Mr. Chair, us doing that to the city of Bradenton? Do you think Gene Brown would be happy if we did that on Riverwalk, on their public properties? So I just think it was a terrible mistake with communication. And now we've got the liability on somebody else's property. And our attorney's here. What if somebody gets hurt out there? Is the school board taking the responsibility because it's their property? Have we signed something? I know we've got the agreement. Does that cover us? And I'd like to hear from our attorney because, all it would have taken was a quick text, which didn't happen, to all the school board members on both sides to let everybody know what was going on. But no, it didn't happen until we read it in the media. So I'd like to ask the attorney, what is our exposure on having our debris on somebody else's property? Do we have to buy insurance or what?
So I'll respond quickly to your question to me. Mayor Brown and the city of Bradenton are tremendous community partners who I know for a fact would help the citizens of this county, whether they were city residents or at large, or even Palmetto or Anna Maria or Bradenton Beach or Holmes Beach residents or Longboat Key. I know for a fact that council and that mayor would do absolutely anything that was needed to help, no questions asked, to help these residents, especially in the aftermath of a natural disaster.
Yeah, if you asked them, I agree.
Mr. Clegg.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of points for the board. First, I wasn't directly involved in the negotiation of the terms of this agreement. That was handled between the administrator and the superintendent, but I have had some discussions with the school board's council about it on several occasions now. I think the board should be aware of what the school board's position is, at least as it's been conveyed to me by their legal counsel. And it is that without an agreement that provides for, the insurance and permission, we do not have the right to be on this property to use it for this purpose. I've not gone back and looked at the 1995 interlocal agreement to see if that could give us a basis to be on there, but that is their position. It's also their position, at least as it has been conveyed to me by their counsel, that if we don't approve this agreement, then they want us to remove this material and this operation from the property. So the board needs to be aware of that. Now, I've had the experience of litigating with the school board before. This is my first rodeo at seeing these things get controversial. And there is a statutory requirement to mediate before you go, hardcore into an adversarial footing with another government. It's possible if we did not proceed, with this agreement, that they're going to say, we want you off the property, and that could get controversial. That's okay. That's what you pay me to do, and if that's the way the board decides to go, that's your prerogative. Also, the board has the final say. This board has the final say on whether or not we spend $120,000. That's not something that we can just, delegate in a state of emergency. That's a significant amount of money. So it's within this board's prerogative to decide whether or not you want to do this. And whatever you decide, I will defend it.
Appreciate
that. In terms
that.
of our exposure, Florida statutes basically say that when you're dealing with two government entities, each is responsible for their own negligence, for the things they cause. You really can't, we try to recite that in our agreements with other governments, but that's a basic Florida law that you really can't get around. So that would be true for any property we're using. We're not going to be able, even if it's on our own property or someone else's property, we're going to bear the potential liabilities for the activities that we're overseeing and conducting on that property, regardless of where it is.
And that, in essence, falls into we're self-insured.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Cruz, you have a
exactly
question?
Yeah, I'm just clarifying. If you look, because you said you hadn't looked at it, if you have time.
I've looked at it,
Okay,
but
I'm
I
just saying,
wasn't involved in the
Section
negotiation of it.
Section 6 of the interlocal specifically says, "The county and school board agree to save one another harmless from
Yes.
any and all liability for personal injury or property damage resulting from the respective parties' use of a facility pursuant to the terms of this agreement."
That's a standard recitation of the way liability is divided between governments in Florida.
All right, so my interpretation of that would be that we have taken on the liability
Yes.
associated with utilization of this land.
Yes, sir.
Which should be their actual concern.
Yes.
And to the extent they took any liability, their financial request to us should be commensurate with the liability that they believe they're taking. So the $10,000 per month is just a way of trying to take money from taxpayers from this pocket and put it in their taxpayer pocket for themselves.
I'm going to defer on that one to the administrator because that is a business, that is a business. Yes, sir, thank you. Thank you.
Mrs. DePaul.
So I wanted to provide some background on behalf of staff, as I was very much a part of these discussions. At the beginning of the storm, one of the first discussions that we had with the school district administration was the fact that we were going to do anything we could to have our 3 waste haulers clean up the schools and as quickly as possible. And we did that. As a matter of fact, we did not invoice the school district. We took on those invoices, and we're going to seek FEMA reimbursement independently for those. And so that was another step that we took in good faith and in supporting our members. My daughter goes to school at one of the charter schools, was in a public school in Manatee County School District last year, and I do believe that we should support the school district as they support us. The next piece of this is we had 3 haulers that did hauling all throughout the county. The one hauler that is in this area needed an additional location cited. There are certain permitting things that have to be done when you select a site. There's a lot of work up front, and that was one of the sites that had the stuff that was done in advance that needed to be done. An alternate location that was discussed was Premier Park. And what an impact that would have had on our school kids that practice sports at Premier Park. And so this was one of those areas that we discussed with the school district administration, and we were in agreement when we discussed this to use that site. So then all of a sudden, this became a big problem when there were many verbal discussions between staff and the school district on this topic, and it was fine. So we decided to use that, and I want to clarify one more point. We are using it for yard debris only. We are not using it for construction and demolition debris. It is only for yard debris. And FEMA 100% reimbursement ends on November 22nd. So really, we only will be using that site for maybe a week or 2 after November 22nd. So this is not going to be used for a year. It's not going to be. So really and truly, I think that this was, I think those are the facts. So that was the background on what happened.
Well, thank you, and thank you for clearing up the misinformation from Commissioners Whitmore and Servia about the lack of communication between the county and the school district. I'm glad to hear that. I also would say kudos to all of our administration and our administrative staff for assisting the school board district in the ways that they did, and of course, not charging them, and I would never ever want us to charge them for something like that in the midst of a natural disaster, because it's the right thing to do. We all step up as a community, we come together, and we help one another. Baugh, Satcher, and Hopes. Commissioner Baugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Actually, I was going to say some of the same things. I think the public needs to understand that the 2 commissioners that have responded so harshly against our administrator were not even here during the hurricane. And if they had been, they would have probably known about this and known that some school administration was involved in this decision. And, no, it didn't go to the school board, but there was a lot happening at the time to make it pretty crazy. I mean, it was a pretty massive storm, a large storm. So we were doing the best we could. Mr. County Administrator, take those knives out of your back. You don't deserve them this time. I mean, it's just anything to pound you, it seems. Yeah. So, but this one, this has kind of been blown. Again, things get blown out of proportion, it seems. But, you know, this decision was made by some of our administration as well as some of the administration at the school system. So, again, I will be ready to make that motion to deny, and then we'll leave it up to, I already did, we're good, I voted, and then we'll leave it up to our county attorney to deal with this. That's his job. And thank you, Bill, for that.
Commissioner Satcher, you're next on the board, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a question for the county attorney. Are there, I can think of one location, but I don't know if it's the county that's using it, like the fairgrounds. Are there locations that are currently used for collection that are not owned by the county? Do we have some sort of agreement with anybody else in this regards?
Commissioner Satcher, sir, I don't know, and I may not be the right person to answer that. That's more of a housekeeping issue. Courtney, are you aware of, do we have any agreements with any private property owners?
We don't. We started with 3 DMS sites located in different areas throughout the county. One at 66th Street, which is our utilities property, one at Duet Preserve, actually 2 different sites at Duet Preserve, and then the other one I can't recall, but they were all utilities.
GT Bray.
GT Bray. But in any case, we needed an additional location, and so one of the haulers came to us and said, I need a location in this general area, and then we worked with them to set a location. It is their responsibility to set a location, although obviously we can realize savings if we can find certain areas. And I did want to draw, and I didn't mention this if you don't mind, I wanted to draw attention to one point in the interlocal. Commissioner Cruz mentioned a good point as well, but it does say in the interlocal for the use of rec facilities between us and the school board, it says, whereas the county and the school board recognize the need for joint usage of the respective recreational equipment, facilities, and land to better serve the residents of Manatee County, resulting in substantial savings to the public. And so we like to use public facilities for this sort of work to allow the citizens to realize substantial savings. So that was another consideration that staff had.
So, sorry, go ahead.
So I think just moving on, I think we, you know, obviously where this vote's going to go, but as we move forward, I am hopeful that the, you know, Board of County Commissioners and the school board can work closely together. And, you know, there is a knee-jerk reaction when you feel like someone's taking advantage of you. I don't think that that's what happened here, but I can understand how maybe the school board got upset. And so I hope that we can move forward, put that behind us regardless of what happens with this vote. And then I would be curious, I know for a fact it must be the city of Palmetto that is using the, which maybe they have an ownership stake in the fairgrounds. But anyway, I would be curious, because if there's already agreements like this where people are paying a nominal fee, then you know, there might be some room for negotiation. Hey, they pay $1,000 for this or whatever. But especially with us self-insuring ourselves, doesn't seem like this is the place to have a fight. We're trying to help those citizens out in Manatee County. So I hope that we're able to do that. And I know everyone was making a lot of decisions really fast during that time. And it's a lot of extra expense and trouble to try to change that decision now after the fact. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. And a quick segue before we go to Dr. Hopes. I think you're right when you talk, and I know that you're right when you say that, you know, the last thing we want to do is to have a fight with the school district. So I think what I'm going to do is, if Commissioner Bob would agree and the board is willing to entertain it, is withdraw my motion to deny and instead make a motion to approve, but have the county attorney put a line through the $120,000 and approve the rest of the agreement, so that we do leave this meeting sending them back an agreement between the two of us, a proposed agreement between the two of us, which they can accept or deny, but we would remove the $120,000. So I'll throw that out there before I officially, you know, pull my denial for further debate. Dr. Hopes, you're next on the board.
Let me hear from
Couple items. So one is that the agreement says that we need it for a year. I don't think we need it for a year. Another point in the agreement says that there's additional insurance that's required. So I would ask the county attorney to weigh in on the insurance requirements, but if our if they already meet our insurance requirements with the county, would they need to carry additional insurance?
That's fine. We can go through with the denial and just instruct the county attorney or the county administrator to draw up a separate agreement with no financial, implications. Commissioner Baugh?
Mr.
dialogue?
Chairman, I did not withdraw my motion.
No, nor have I.
So,
Nor have
but
I.
it's not there anymore.
Well, they can sort that out. They'll fix it.
Okay. Yeah, I will not
Depends.
agree to that, only because I think that
You prefer to go ahead
Courtney has a point.
You
that
prefer
we
to go
can
ahead
deal
with
with that after the fact.
Go ahead with the denial and then instruct the
Yes.
county attorney to draw up a separate
Exactly.
agreement. Okay. Dr. Hopes, you were next on the board.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify a couple things. Look, one is that our staffs below Deputy Administrator DePaul and below the superintendent did discuss this. They did give verbal agreement to our staff that we could use it and we would follow up with an agreement. And I think the only thing that occurred principally was that the staff acted on the verbal approval of the deputy superintendent and their properties person with our folks. And they were operating under the guidance that I provided before the storm hit. And the reason why we contracted with the Ford debris removals is that I wanted to see this be the fastest recovery from a hurricane with debris removal of any county in the history of Florida. And so when our staff got the verbal approval from the school district staff that we could use it, they moved forward unbeknownst to Deputy DePaul and I, that the contractor had already gotten everything permitted, had prepared the site, and began picking up debris in the Lakewood Ranch area and the schools out there. And I was a bit taken aback because we discussed verbally this issue of payment, and the debris contractors, we've never heard of paying for land for a site. Made it clear to the superintendent that FEMA does not reimburse for the use of a site. They reimburse under a tonnage or a cubic yard, so there's no direct payment from the feds to give money to the school board. It would just be a direct expense. And I will tell you that when the superintendent, I didn't have any negotiations agreement. This was sort of said, here's the agreement, this is what we're going to do. And if there's a problem with the rate or whatever, we can change it in the future. And so that's how it proceeded. I will take accountability and responsibility for what happened. With regards to Lena Road, this board surplus Lena Road. There's an ITN on the street. We're receiving offers for the Lena Road property. That's why we didn't put anything on Lena Road, because the board surplused it and we moved forward to find a buyer. We did not use Premier because, as you are aware, we have a number of projects on that property that will be started in the next couple of months. And so in order to move this debris off of the curbs in front of people's homes in Lakewood Ranch and at the schools in Lakewood Ranch, this area of land, which is owned by the public and has no plans for any construction, at least for the foreseeable next couple of years, was the site that was chosen. So just to clarify it, we acted under a verbal agreement from high levels of the district, and we expeditiously put into place an agreement that would come before the board. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick. The only reason why I'm hesitating about this is because somebody tell me, did not the school board vote to come up with an amount to charge Manatee County? Did they not vote for that?
They did. They
'Cause I
voted for
didn't
this
watch the
agreement and
meeting.
sent it over to us without
So
negotiation.
okay, right, but this is what the board voted on.
Yes.
Was it 5-0? Do you know?
I believe it was 4-1 with Mr. Choate in opposition.
Okay, all right, and on a side note, yes, Commissioner Whitmore was not around because I am the only one on that board that actually had to evacuate from the island. And my husband, I had to transport to a hospice, so I was evacuated with my family. And I was totally available on the phone, and Commissioner Van Osterbridge can tell you, I did get citizens' calls. George Cruz can tell you that because he helped me out. But for the first time in 16 years, Commissioner Ball, yes, I wasn't there. I had to take care of my family. So she keeps putting that out there that I wasn't there. Yes, first time in 16 years. So I just had to get that out. But still, and I know we can't delay this. This bothers me because the school board voted for this, and we're just going to say, forget it. We're not going to pay you. We're going to still use your property. Our attorney, is that okay?
Mr. Chairman, I would rather just wait until I have a chance. When you all are done, I'll talk a little bit to them.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Servia.
Thank you. Yeah, just a few comments to correct the record and to explain to Commissioner Baugh again. I was here during the hurricane, ma'am. I was working in my district, in District 4. I wasn't always there standing arm in arm with you guys because you didn't want me there showing strength as you stood together behind the county administrator. I wasn't invited in a lot of cases, but I was here during the hurricane, and I was working hard. So please stop the political rhetoric. It is the responsibility of this board to improve and maintain relationships that are strong with all of our public agencies. And we do that by being respectful of their property. Okay? So there were some hiccups here, you guys. There were. I understand verbal agreements and handshakes, and that works really well sometimes, but it doesn't work well when you're leading a very large organization like a county government. You have got to get things in writing, and hopefully that's a lesson learned. So I'm, again, looking at the long game. How much will this cost us if we decide that what the school board has asked for as cash reimbursement is too much money? How much will it cost us to fight that? My guess is it will be much more than what they're asking for. And I don't know what they're going to use that dollar amount for. Is it for additional insurance? Is it for cleanup? Is it for security? I don't know the answer to that. I doubt that they're just trying to stick it to the county because most organizations don't operate that way. I know it's a little hard to believe because sometimes I feel like this board operates that way. So it was private property that we encroached on.
No, it was not.
It was property
Public
not
land.
property not owned
By the
by
taxpayers.
Manatee County, but owned by the school district that we encroached on. We knew the risks in doing that and not having an agreement in writing. These are the consequences. Maybe we can postpone this and kind of work through it together before we end up in a lawsuit. And that's what I'd like to see. Thank you.
So I guess the definition of encroach is when people verbally agree back and forth in the middle of the recovery of a natural disaster, and they come to a verbal agreement. That defines encroachment.
And Mr. Chairman, since you're dialoguing with me,
Yes.
you may not know, but you have to have things in writing. When you're managing an organization of this size, you don't just do it on the fly. You can't operate that way. And these are the consequences.
Thank you, ma'am. Wise words as always. Commissioner Baugh, you're next on board.
I find that very condescending and amazing to me that the word respectful is even used, considering the way our administrator has been treated. I have the floor. Mr. County Attorney, I have a question.
Okay.
I'm not going to vote to give them $125,000. But what I do want to know, just out of curiosity, when you're speaking, maybe you can address this for me. We were very helpful to them in trying to clean the property of the schools so that the schools could get opened. I know out in Mayaca it was a big mess. And the county worked very hard, and I don't think that we had anything in writing from the school system on that, but I will tell you that, you know, it has always been, whether it's a county government, no matter what it is, people work together for the betterment of the community. So, you know, this is not, it's too much bureaucracy here that I'm hearing. We tried to work with them the best we could. We worked very diligently with them. We had an agreement, a verbal agreement. Now, Commissioner Survey, I guess we could have waited a few days to get, an agreement that we came up with, and then us meet and approve it, and then go back and take it to them to see if but that is time spent. We needed this done as soon as possible because we needed our students back in school, for one thing. And the county worked very hard with the school system to get that done. So I don't need a lecture from a commissioner that hasn't even been here as long as I have. I know how the county runs. I've been involved for many more years. And I will tell you that we had approval from 2 people in the school administration to do what we did. We also have an interlocal agreement dated October 3rd, 1995, that is still in effect, that gave us the right to be able to do that. So I don't know what more you'd want done. They did everything they needed to do, and I will not vote to give them $125,000. I'm not going to do it, because here's my question, Mr. County Attorney. We cleaned a lot of their properties. Why don't we just say they owe us the same amount of money and call it even? Thank you.
So I'm going to chime in real quick because when you said bureaucracy, Commissioner Baugh, you really hit it on the head. We came in here as sort of commissioners who like to get things done, and the incoming commissioners are the types who get things done, and that's what people want. People want to cut red tape. They want to see you eliminate bureaucracy, and they want to see government get things done. They don't want to see these constant. Could you imagine if Governor DeSantis, when he came to the Sanibel Causeway, took Commissioner Servia's approach and was running around trying to get, come on. I mean, or the school district would have charged us to stage trucks with fill, before they went to the causeway. I mean, can you imagine if we were in that type of situation and this type of, bureaucracy and sort of like just old school thinking, and, if that's how the mentality was in the middle of a natural disaster? Please dialogue with me. Please dialogue.
You are totally correct. And the statement that, commissioners weren't there and speaking with the administration, that's not our fault. We shouldn't be held accountable for that. They should have been there. They should have at least been on the phone. They didn't need us to call them. They're commissioners. They should have been there helping with this entire situation, and they weren't. And so I'm sorry that, they want to make it sound like, oh my gosh, I was out in the community, I was doing this, I was doing that. Well, one thing you weren't doing is helping all of Manatee County. You weren't there. You didn't even call.
Well, they had
to
checked out.
seek help.
They had checked out by that
We
point,
need to
yeah.
get this taken care of, and we did.
And the last comment that I would make would be regarding Public Works. And, when our Public Works guys and utilities guys went out, it was still dark, it was still raining, it was still windy. And they went out there, not with their families, doing chop and toss duty, clearing roads, clearing major roads, so that we could clear 70 some odd EMS 911, calls that were in the queue. Did we do a work order? Did we take the time to fill out front and back every form for every log that was cleared out of the road along the way? Did we get permission from whomever? What if it rolled onto private property when you tossed the log to the side? Did we get permission from that property owner along the way? Of course not. It's a natural disaster. These things have to get done. They have to get done.
Chair,
It's just the way it is.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Whitmore.
Yeah, and all due respect, all the stuff you just now talked about, that's covered under our ordinances. And the governor doing the bridge, he's the governor. Of course he can do that. He doesn't need all that. The DOT reports to him. That's how he was able to do it. So let's stop the personal attacks. We were available. I talked to Kevin a million times via text, and he knows that. And actually, I asked if he would text us because we weren't getting anything from the administrator, and he said he would handle it. So all of you got texts from Kevin because of me, and he did a great job. And I did respond to citizens. I have tried to, our administrator doesn't even respond to me anymore, unless it's something he's got to go back at with me with a bunch of exclamation points. But other than that, the old school guys, you all did your jobs. What you saw the employees do is under our ordinance with a state of emergency. I've been through about 30 hurricanes in government. So our employees did their job. They did a very good job. And Kevin, you did a good job. George, you did a good job in Mayaca, and I appreciate you helping me out.
So Mr. Clegg would like to address the board real quick before, there are no other commissioners on the board, so he would like to address the board very quickly before we move forward.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I would like to suggest that in the interest of trying to bring this to a resolution, and I'm a little concerned that we're kind of drifting off of the decision point that's in front of the board about the agreement. No, sir, I've been sitting here listening here. And so what I'd suggest is, in order to, make it clear that we have a right to continue to be on that property, because I think if you deny the interlocal completely, then that calls into question whether we have to remove everything from that property.
That's not happening.
The better thing to do is to approve it with the deletion of paragraph 6, which requires the payment of $120,000, because that's obviously not something the board supports, and any changes to the insurance provisions that are recommended by the county attorney, and then send it back to the school board and see what they do with it. That, I think, is the better way to continue the discussion. And then I would just speak to the insurance. We require our own contractors to provide us with insurance. So there's nothing wrong with having them name the school board as an additional insured if they're on their property. We do that routinely in all of our agreements. My lawyers make sure that's in virtually every agreement where we're working with another local government that's putting a contractor on our property, but I don't know what the numbers are.
We looked at the insurance that we already had from that contractor that's on that site and what the school board was recommending. And I think in one of the areas, we required $1 million of some
Okay.
liability and they wanted $2 million. And so there was
Okay.
just a difference. There was a small deviation.
All right.
So my request was just, we can add them as an additional insured, but as no additional.
Yeah, we just
limits.
send them back with the same number that we're requiring to protect us, in other words. So that would be my suggestion, only in the interest of continuing the dialogue with them, because it sounds like the county does want to continue to be on that property and continue the operation. Is that correct, Dr. Hopes? Then I think that's the best way to proceed.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
The
board doesn't have- you don't have-
contractor is already on the property, and they're trying to wrap up by the
Yeah.
21st.
So, I give advice. You don't have to follow it, but I do think that's the
Sure.
best approach in this situation.
And I do not want to disrupt service. As of late, those are probably the primary calls and inquiries I get from constituents is, when are they going to get to my house? When are they going to clear my street? So the last thing we want to do is disrupt service in the county. And I'm sure that's the last thing the school board wants to do as well. Commissioner Ball, it is your motion. I will turn it over to you, ma'am.
If you want to change the motion, as Mr. Clegg said, without the $120,000 being in there, I will not vote for that. And I do want to know, I think it's only fair, since we've been put in this position by their school board members, that it's only fair that we know what maybe we should charge them for cleaning up their property. I am really put out by the way Charlie Kennedy responded verbally, in this publicly. And I don't think that that was right. If he knew about the agreement, I don't think he would have done that. So, if you're willing to do that, I'll amend the motion, but not a dime going to them.
So you want to you want to make a motion for approval, removing paragraphs?
I can restate it for the record so
why
that
don't
the
you do
clerk
that,
has
Mr.
it.
Clay?
The motion would be, I move to approve the interlocal agreement presented to the board with the removal of paragraph 6 requiring the payment of $120,000 and with any changes to the insurance provisions recommended by the county attorney.
And that's pretty much what's already been, that's what's on here. So I'll go along with that. Thank you.
So moved by Commissioner Baugh and seconded by Van Ostenbridge. I have Servia and Cruz on the board for discussion. Commissioner Servia.
Yeah, so I don't have a clear understanding of why the school district asked for that dollar amount, but the insurance and the liability is a pressing concern for this board. Do we know if that money was to go for extra insurance? Does anybody know that?
Well, Mr. Clegg, you want to speak to that? I thought you cleared it up pretty well, but go ahead.
I'm not sure if I understand the question. If
I can answer it.
the money that the school board was collecting was to go to pay for insurance?
No.
I think it's way more than it would cost to get that insurance. I mean, quite candidly.
It was
It
a
was-
separate, the insurance was a separate item within the contract, so it was separate and.
We assume all liability anyway.
The-
Dr. Hopes.
The dollar amount that they put in the agreement, I spoke with the superintendent directly in person in my office. It was an arbitrary number they thought they would put in there based on their assumption that FEMA would directly reimburse for the use of the land. And I had that conversation with the superintendent, and that's when the response was, well, if we need to change it in the future, we can change it in the future. That's what you're doing. You're changing it. This board is
Okay,
changing it in the
okay.
future. That money was an arbitrary number. I don't know who fed them that number, but it was an arbitrary number of what they thought they could get FEMA to reimburse for.
So it was more of just a arbitrary punitive number.
Yes.
Didn't mean anything, wasn't for anything.
And the superintendent
Okay.
specifically told me if we
Okay.
need to change it in the future, we can address it in the future.
Okay.
And to be clear, all of the haulers have insurance, they carry insurance, that's our requirement, and they're already working on some of our parks, as we
right.
talked about, so.
Commissioner Cruz.
I'll be quick, 'cause I already voted. Just to clarify, I also do not support charging them for anything we did. I think it goes both ways, and they should be providing services to us, we should be providing services to them. So
Agreed.
I do not expect anything to come back in front of this board requesting that we send them a letter charging them for cleaning the schools for our children.
Mr.
Commissioner Baugh.
Yeah, just to address that. I don't particularly want to send a bill to the school board, but if they continue with this nonsense, then that could be an option. And I only brought it up to show that we had good faith with the school administration. We had good faith. We went to work immediately to help clean up the schools so the kids could get back to school. And so we worked in good faith, and that's why, another reason I thought this, to be honest, Commissioner Survey wants to talk about politics. I mean, this whole thing seemed politics
course,
to me.
yeah.
But anyway, that's the only reason I said what I did. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Whitmore, go ahead.
I'm going to support the motion because finally somebody told us the facts. I asked in an email, and I never got what was going on. And now to hear that it was an arbitrary number, it's nice to make a decision instead when it gets put on the agenda at the last minute like this, but I'm going to support it. And, stop bullying people, please, guys. Let's just stop it. Let's be professional. We're a joke
I have
up
no
here.
idea.
But I am going to support the motion. Please don't talk down to others, please, please.
Who are we
disrespectful.
bullying, Commissioner? Can you clear that up? Who are we bullying?
Vanessa and
We're
you.
bullying Vanessa?
And you're 34%. Come on now, let's just quit it. How old are we all?
That's harsh. It
I
was
know, I'm the
37. It
oldest.
was not 34. Be polite. Okay. We're ready to cast our votes. Oh, we've not public comment. Let's open this up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to come forward to speak on this item? Okay, seeing no one, we'll go to the phone. Is anyone called in? No one's called in. We'll close public comment, and we'll go ahead and hold the vote, Commissioners.
Aye.
Commissioner Whitmore votes aye, so the motion passes by a vote of 6-0. All right, thank you, Commissioners. That concludes consent. And we will speed ahead here to, it is, but we only have two things left, so we can wrap this up. Commissioner Servia, item 58 is yours.
I don't have any comments, thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Whitmore, item 59 is yours.
Thank you. Just couple quick questions. I've asked the administrator about 4 or 5 times, and I've emailed Sheila, but she's not allowed to respond. I was at a function last week with Ed Childs and everybody wants to know where the $500,000 is coming from, and nobody's contacted them, and the administrator won't respond. So I figure if I did it publicly, maybe he would, or you, Mr. Van Ostenbridge, could find out, because they're asking me and I can't do my job because nobody's responding to me.
Yes, ma'am. So I saw your emails, and I did speak with Mr. Childs yesterday afternoon. I asked him if there were any issues or concerns regarding the timing of the $500,000. He said no, there were none at all, and they were totally good. And so I said, okay, great, and that I would follow up with Dr. Hopes on that at another time, which I will. So I'm in communication.
Okay, so
with
do we
both.
have any idea what line item we're taking it from? That's all I asked.
That was
for the
discussed
budget.
in the meeting, but
I'm on the board. I'm almost
Cruz.
100% positive we can check, but didn't we do that out of our discretionary reserve from the board? I think we
That's
used
what I
our
thought.
reserve.
But he won't answer, so I don't know.
I'm almost 100% positive.
Okay.
We'll check.
You did vote on it, ma'am.
I'm sorry, to clarify the record, we're not aware of what this is regarding.
So
Oh, all clams
this
on
is
deck.
this is all clams on deck.
thank you.
And this is under item 59, which is District 6 updates and
Update.
topics of discussion.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Vicki, it's about the All Clams on Deck program that the board voted on, the $500,000 to give to that organization.
I have Sheila at the podium to give your brief answer.
Oh, good, because she hasn't been allowed to in email.
Good Lord.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Sure.
Good morning. The All Clams on Deck is being funded by the Environmental Lands funding source. Right now, the agreement is being drawn and reviewed by the county attorney's office. The $500,000 will be on a reimbursement basis, so they would have to, once the agreement is signed and brought to the board, it will be on a reimbursement basis. They have to submit the documentation for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sheila.
You're welcome.
Wait a minute. Wait,
Commissioner-
don't go yet, please.
Commissioner Cruz is
Sheila.
oh, go ahead, Commissioner Whitmore. It's her item. Go ahead,
I'm
Commissioner
still
Whitmore.
dialoguing, I'm sorry, but the 500,000 was to go out of our reserves. So, because the environmental is to buy lands. So who determined that? I think Cruz is right. We said our reserves.
I think you're differentiating environmental lands operating reserves versus actual,
I don't know.
the sales tax. But Sheila, go ahead.
It was identified to be a proper use of funds through the environmental lands as per the resolution as it was drafted.
Through the environmental lands tax or through the
The
department?
environmental lands fund, the millage fund.
Oh, it is through the millage
Yes.
fund.
Tax. Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Cruz.
Is that true? I mean, that seems like a stretch in terms of, I mean, I understand we've already kind of stretched it to say if we buy land, we can put a swing set on it and we can manage it and we could all kind of, but we're not buying the land for these things. We can improve land we already own with this millage tax. I'm not saying I'm not refuting it. You want to take it out of there versus our reserves, then go ahead. It just, to me, I want to make sure we're using that tax for its intended purpose. That seems like, that doesn't make sense.
There is a wording in the resolution that states that part of this money is to be used for environmental lands, current operations, and management. Yes. That's how it was drawn. It was kind of like very broad, and it stated it just like that.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll sort of.
Did
I mean,
LMAC
I don't think the
approve it?
clams are improving land. The clams are supposed
Submerged
to improve
land.
water, and I don't believe the water.
Submerged land. Commissioner Whitmore, go ahead.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Cruz. I just feel it should have gone out of reserves like we originally said, because we can use that money for anything. And I'm just gonna, this is my last meeting and I wanna I've written a statement to the citizens since I wasn't able to be there and there's no more meetings unfortunately. So I'll be quick. I wanna take this opportunity to thank the citizens for their support in the past 16 years. I was asked by my friend, former Commissioner Pat Glass, who had asked me to run for her seat she carried for 26 years. She was a caring, creative soul who did a lot for less fortunate. She also worked on the dam. She pushed for the water reuse system, migrant housing, stricter mining ordinances, and saving the Crossley Mansion, also Peace River. She was one of the original members. She ran for Congress. She sold the hospital to private sector and much more. I've tried to follow in her footsteps as one of only two that has ever represented District 6, which happened to always be a female. Since I have replaced Pat, I've worked a lot from a budget from $300 million during the recession to $1.5 billion. I showed up every day for work, even though some may not agree that you don't need to, even when I had other jobs. I came into my role in a time which was the worst recession since the Depression and happened to get services and keep this county open after laying off 300 employees. I refused my state mandated salary increase for 3 or 4 years because I didn't feel I should take it when we were laying off employees. We got the Wares Creek dredge open after 26 years working with the federal government and and I've approved every land purchase or grant to build Robinsons and other preserves in Manatee County. We had the DeSoto Mall fail, and Meals on Wheels came to us after they were in trouble. They were 300 and something thousand short, and the county helped them keep forward. I pushed indigent care funds to be used for patients needing dialysis or certain palliative chemo, or they would have died. In the old days, we didn't do that and extended their life with dignity. I supported Turning Points, as many of you know, worked there as a volunteer for years. And I also, she done coughing? Okay, I worked for the study on healthcare gaps. That study with the chamber resulted in us building, LECOM building, the Medical, Dental, and Pharmaceutical School in Manatee County. Met with Ms. Ungarelli, with the preserves in Manatee County, and I've worked with the great employees of the likes of Ed Hunsaker, who was the CFO in Hillsborough County, financing the stadiums, and then serving as administrator. Sherry Corey, who worked her way to the top position with hard work, ethics, and serving on the board. I only hope that this seat represents what it has been in the past, with honesty, passion, love, and of helping our citizens and separating from the noise and, yes, sometimes hate to serve. I'm sure my replacement will. It's been an honor to serve our citizens. People have moved here for quality of life. It took all previous boards and administrators to shine the light on our county, with over 100,000 moving here since my tenure. This board has reaped the benefits of previous boards, and you will do the same in the future. To the employees, we are successful due to you. You get it done and are true public servants. Forget the noise you see up here. This will pass with new leaders in the future. Do your jobs. Don't do anything you question. And if you think it's not appropriate, go through the appropriate channels. Seek whoever you need to. It's been an honor to serve one of the most powerful jobs in our county, and I pray the leadership and the ship eventually get straight again. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, any further business? We're adjourned.